You see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan and McClurg and Nick Morgasen. And hello again, my friends. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the final week of August, and welcome into an action-packed episode of Press Row, live and in full for the next 3 hours here on the Into the Bench Network. As always, joined by Nick Morgasen, Callan McClurg joining you here this afternoon across YouTube and Twitter for ETB. Mr. Morgasen, how are we doing today? Good to see you as always. An action-packed show and a special guest joining us in hour 3 here today.
No, I'm good. It's been quite a week for sports media, so I'm kind of looking forward to all the action we have going on this week. Incredible guest, which we will get to later on in hour 3 of the program today. But before we get to all that, make sure you follow our show on social media, across social media platforms at Press Row ETB, across all social media platforms. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at ETB Network. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, to find out everything that we are doing for this show and across the 17 shows that we have across this network. Boy, do we have an incredible show for you today. And lots of drama, from Jed York, the CEO of the 49ers, getting arrested for prostitution, to the WNBA drama, if we haven't had enough of that going on in this annoying world that we live in. What else we have going on? We have Mark Walter insurance fraud updates. We have we have NFL players going back to college football, if we haven't had enough of those issues going on. What else do we have? We have Deshaun Watson making apologies, even though I could care less what he says or does anymore. NBC announcing new shows on NBC News Now, which we'll get to later on in the program. I mean, this show is locked and loaded, and yeah, it's a crazy show. And like I said, we have a big guest, which we can actually talk about now, Jimmy Traina. And you're probably saying, wait, _media, what the hell is that? And I'm like, and the answer is yes. He's moved on officially from Sports Illustrated after almost 26 years, even though he claims in the interview it was 23, because I think for 3 years he went to Fox Sports Digital, and then he realized that he really wanted to be back at Sports Illustrated. So that's a great interview. We sit down, we talk about a lot. So you're not going to want to miss that, coming up in the 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time hour. So we got a lot to get to before that. So why don't we get moving, as they say in the business. Already?
Well, it's the big news of the day, though, Nick, in professional sports, and also some media movement. No surprise, Nick, Live Golf announcing it is scaling back operations and terminating employees come September. Ha ha ha.
Color me shocked that Live Golf is finally realizing, oh wait, we're losing our shorts over this. I mean, tell me something I don't know. Go back to our interview with Alan Shipnuck, where he told us he wasn't sure how this business was operating and how they could possibly be operating on a plus budget when all they're doing is paying with oil money.
I mean, color me shocked is right. I always make the argument, though, Nick, that every time that you see a rival league pop up, normally they're not going to survive, a couple of years, if not a few seasons. And here we are. And yeah, we'll have to probably get Mr. Shipnuck back on eventually to talk about this whole thing with LIV once more.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to break down on this that we could probably spend an hour on this whole thing because the whole Saudi public interest fund situation is a nightmare. And it's just funny how people say, "Oh, this is going to be successful. Don't worry." Well, why do you think the Saudi public interest fund pulled out if that was the case, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that also that the constant moving of TV platforms for national television, the format change to a team format rather than individual stroke play, 3-day tournaments, not 4-day tournaments, as it usually is accustomed to. They threw a lot of money though, Nick, at Rom and Bryson and Kepka and all those guys. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, Nick, anytime, like I always say, I'll say it one more time. But anytime that you have a rival startup league like LIV startup operation, they're going to flop eventually. I mean, again, look at the American Football League and the American Basketball Association and the World Hockey Association. They all tried their hardest to take down the big bad wolf of the NBA, the NFL, or the NHL, and they both got crushed, and they end up having to merge to save their skin.
There's no way to succeed when the originator does something well. Look at the NFL, okay? And I know you hate when I say those letters, but when you look at the NFL, what do they do well? They market. They're some of the best marketers across professional sports. You can't emulate the NFL. There's only one NFL when it comes to professional football. If you want to say there's other professional leagues that can do football, sure, but it's not the same product that the NFL is. So you're better off creating something of your own volition and turning it into something because you're never going to compete with the marketing dollars of the NFL. It's just never going to happen. And I think what Live Golf, even though this is a little bit of a rare scenario because when you had the Saudi Public Interest Fund involved with Live Golf, it was almost like an endless water supply of money. And basically, the Saudi Public Interest Fund was willing to say, I'm willing to take a haircut and lose millions upon millions of dollars to see if this is going to work. The problem is they never were profitable.
No.
They were always in the red, at least from the reporting you and I did. We're not saying that out of our asses. We've been following Live Golf since the inception, really, when it came into play.
And Alan Shipnuck said the same exact thing, though, too, Nick, when we had him on a few months ago. With that, Nick, we'll go from golf, though, to not much of a surprise, though, but Michael Jordan not returning back to NBC Sports for NBA coverage next year. Color me shocked.
He wasn't a great interview anyway. Like, it was such a joke. They paid him millions to basically sit there, and Michael Jordan was not an entertaining interview whatsoever. Oh, will always be the greatest player of all time. No doubt. No one is taking that away. And anyone who says LeBron James can go take a hike. But sometimes the greatest athletes are not the best media people. Personalities, media people. And I think NBC finally said the juice is not worth the squeeze when it comes to the money. And they realized, all right, we got to actually do something that makes sense for the product. And right now, this is not good for the product. It's just not. So they finally said, all right, we're done with this. We're going to move on and find someone who actually cares about doing the interviews. There's so many great former athletes' personalities that would do a much better job.
Bring back Ahmad Rashad, damn it.
What?
Bring back Ahmad Rashad.
I think he's still doing NBA coverage stuff. At least from what I heard. But I think he's also doing college football now.
Oh, that's right.
On NBC.
Do.
I mean, there's so many. Well, look at what NBC has become. We're going to talk about them in a while, but NBC has bought so many properties now. I can't keep track of who's what at this point.
With that in mind, Nick, we'll get to the actual show and lead off with all things NFL football. But of course, Nick, the never-ending circus that is the San Francisco 49ers continues as principal team owner Jed York was arrested on Sunday evening in East Palestine, Ohio, after authorities accused him of engaging in prostitution. York initially faced a charge described as engaging in prostitution. The charge was then amended as part of a plea agreement with Mr. York. Then on Monday, he pled no contest to misdemeanor charges of disorderly conduct and possessing what they called criminal tools. He posted a $5,000 bond after his arrest and was sentenced to 2 days in the Columbiana County Jail with credit for 1 day already served, and also ordered to pay roughly $1,150 in fines. The NFL has acknowledged the incident and said it will review it underneath the league's personal conduct policy. The organization, though, did issue a brief statement saying the legal matter had been resolved and that the organization would not have further comment. This story is especially notable because York is not merely an NFL executive, but also is the principal owner of one of the league's most valuable franchises as well, having been CEO since 2008 and since became principal owner back in 2024, which also, Nick, as we said, though, in a bit, though, on Tuesday with you and Zambando, this just continues a very much chaotic, black clouded offseason for this organization, though, Nick, with more injuries piling up. I think at one point they had 24 players already out week one of the training camp schedule. But, Nick, what does the NFL do, though, with an owner who has already resolved the criminal case, but whose conduct could still fall under the NFL's personal conduct policy?
This whole story is ridiculous. Like, I feel like we're talking about Robert Kraft all over again, and I didn't think we were going to get to that point. But in this scenario, Jed York, CEO, majority owner of the Niners, you're going to East Palestine, Ohio. And by the way, there is another relevancy to that town. I don't know if you remember.
He's from Youngstown, Ohio.
Well, right. But do you remember that's where the whole oil spill thing happened with, I think it was a train or whatever?
Yeah, and derailed and blew up, and it's never been resolved, yes.
Right. So there's already a black cloud over the town already. But here's the funniest part of this whole thing. Why are you going to a trailer park to solicit sex from a prostitute, knowing who you are, knowing your relevancy as a CEO of the 49ers? And the best part is you tried to go under a pseudonym to hide your identity. What are you trying to pull, sir? Tell me what you're doing. What? You can't win this one.
No way.
And of course, he posted $5,000 bond after he was arrested. I mean, he's worth God knows how much. So this is a $5,000 bond and being ordered to pay $1,150. You know what he did? He went, "Hachoo! Oh, there's the money." Like, because he could probably wipe his you-know-what with that type of money. Now, I don't know. The personal conduct policy is mostly for players, at least from what I know. But executives need to be held to the same regard. You're still working for the NFL. But this is insane. And you know what the NFL is going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to slap him on the wrist. "Oh, Robert Kraft did it, so I guess you could do it too." No biggie here.
Well, I mean, look at the two teams that these two men own, though.
I really don't care.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're going to do it. That's my whole point about this being win-loss behavior. Oh, you own the 49ers, you're fine. We got all of Northern California, and we got the big money of Silicon Valley. Oh, Robert Kraft owns the Patriots, and all they've done is win no matter what, despite all these snafus going on, whatever. But I think, though, Nick, to the point, though, I think that we're right here. I know I made the funny mention on the show on Tuesday with you and Zan in the comment box, though. But I'm telling you, though, what in the world is going on, though, in 49er land is all I have to ask. I mean, between all the injury problems piling up, now this whole thing happens, and just the dysfunction in a way between on the field, though, with no one being able to stay healthy for 20 minutes over the course of a practice,
right,
to now the ownership group having this whole thing happen. I mean, how, though, Nick, I don't think I've ever seen a team not be able to get out of their own way like we have with San Francisco right now. Merely, though, for at least one part of this, though, Nick, Injuries, as we know, though, in sports are out of your control. You can't control the injury bug, though, but you can, though, control how you act, though, in the manner like we are seeing here with Jed York, though, and that this should be absolutely in some way be reprehensible.
You're asking for logic is basically what you're asking for in this scenario. And in sports, there's no logic when it comes to these situations. Why is Jed York soliciting prostitution? Now, we found out he filed for divorce, I think, on May 11th of this
Yes.
year. He's got 2 kids at home, young kids. He had a wife, and he's throwing it all away to solicit with a prostitute. And I found it funny because you and I were going through this whole story. Do you remember the Facebook page of the trailer park was saying, "This is not who we are"? And I want to make sure that our reputation, all-time miss right there. That's what you're worried about, your reputation. You're not worried that there's prostitutes allegedly near your trailer park? Like, really? Like, that's what we're worried about here? Jed York should be forced to divest from the 49ers.
I would think so.
It's never going to happen because he has way too much power and is the owner of a franchise in the 49ers.
And I think he's also still CEO, I think, too.
He's the CEO, and I think he's the majority owner.
Principal owner.
Or principal owner. So nothing's going to happen to him. We're just going to continue to have win-loss behavior. You have moron hosts on our network who are going to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter because as long as they do their job, let them do whatever they want." I'm sorry to infuse reality into this situation, but usually when you do something illegal, something is supposed to happen to you. Usually.
Yeah, especially if it's the common man like you and me and the next guy down the street.
But the dumb logic that we live in as a society, that because you are a sports owner or you're an athlete or you're a billionaire in another form, that because you have money and you have power and influence, that means nothing is supposed to happen to you and the law basically doesn't apply.
And that kind of went to my point, though, Nick, from Cranium, I think, last Tuesday, talking about the whole thing with the Lakers being where they're at right now with the sale. That, I made the semi-motivational speech that, all of us in some way are driven by something. And I think if you're a sports team owner, you are motivated by money, you're motivated by ego, and you're motivated by power, especially when it is a family-run operation like the Lakers. And the 49ers have been, I think, a family-run franchise for the latter part of the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 decades, if not a little bit sooner, more than likely, between the York family and the Di Bertoldo family, I think, who also owned them at one point in time. That it's like you said, though. I'm an owner of an NFL franchise. We've won all these rings. We've gotten to 3 Super Bowls. We haven't won one recently. I can basically do whatever the hell I want to do. Try and stop me.
And that's the problem. And that's why the Vrabel Rossini story made me want to go take up drinking when I'm not a drinker. Because everyone's saying, "Oh, Rossini is 100% wrong and Vrabel is not wrong because he's a football coach and she's a journalist." So if I'm putting that logic into play right now, are you telling me because he's the football executive, that means that it doesn't matter that he's breaking the law?
Exactly.
But what kind of effed up logic is that? Because if, like you just said, if you or I or Nick DiMartino or anybody here solicited a prostitute, we'd be in jail.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, for all the young people listening, don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'm just making a point. That's it. That the common man, the common woman did this, they'd be in jail and they'd be stuck in there.
Yep.
Okay. Jed York it's almost like in Monopoly when you get the get out of jail free card.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, though.
And you're playing and you land on chance community, just, "Oh, get out of jail free card. I'm going to put that down in front of me. And then when I do something stupid, I can just pull the get out of jail free card out of my pocket. Here you go. I didn't break the law. You can't say that.
You can't touch this. Da, 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 da. Can't touch this. Da, 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 da.
It's one of my favorite songs back in the day. This is idiotic. And of course, like another commissioner we'll talk about later, you have a commissioner in the NFL who only cares about one thing. Oh, wait. So if they do something to the 49ers owner, they're worried that fans are going to stop their subscriptions to their packages for the NFL, or we can't sell season tickets, or we can't do. They're so worried for the wrong reasons on this story that they're going to let someone who solicited prostitution walk free, and they're not going to do anything. Now, the NFL did their standard NFL quote, and they said, we'll do an internal investigation. My ass, you're going to do an internal investigation. That's being nice. That's the politically correct notion that they're saying.
And real quick, before we move on here, I know it doesn't say a lot of things logically, but I remember, though, Nick, when Isaiah Leung and I were doing content together, back during COVID, 4 to 5, 6 years ago, he had been working for the 49ers as a stadium usher at Levi Stadium when it first opened. Of course, that was, after all the mystique of Candlestick Park or whatever it was called, though. And there were a lot of issues when the stadium first opened, when Isaiah first began to work there. And he went on about, that, people don't want to make the drive from San Francisco to Santa Clara, where they play about 45 minutes south of San Francisco. It's very hot during the September and October because of the Bay Area climate. And he said, them not putting a dome on the stadium and, why are there so many empty seats? And when people love the 49ers, the commute has killed the fan base a bit. They were sharing the parking lot with a defunct theme park up there of California's Great America. And the afternoon games, like at the 1 o'clock kickoff time, Nick, if the game time temperature is over a certain, threshold, people are going to be in the clubs or in the VIP spots, drinking beer, but watching the game on TV because of how they built the stadium, though. And that there's just a lot of factors, though, that he had mentioned, though. And he said only time that people would come out, though, without any issue at hand was when they were on prime time for Monday Night Football or SNF, for example. So I think away from the Jed York thing, there have been a lot of other factors about why this 49er team has kind of maybe not had that same kind of mystique about them dating back to, their days at Candlestick Park, though that's kind of here, but that's kind of, neither here nor there.
I don't know. This whole situation bothers me because everyone thinks, oh, the NFL is going to come down on Jed York. They're not going to come down on Jed York. How many times do I have to explain that they didn't charge Robert Kraft? They didn't suspend Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft is like buddy with Roger Goodell. You think Roger Goodell is going to suspend Robert Kraft for anything?
Exactly.
You broke the bylaws of the NFL. That's all you got to know.
Exactly. Well, Nick, there is, though, other factors at hand here, though, that we have somewhat in a way discussed here, too. But also, this is also, Nick, stemmed, though, comparing both of these stories, comparing Mark Walter to Jed York. But, Nick, two major sports business stories involving enormously powerful sports owners have received limited to none to no sustained attention from major national sports publications involving Jed York's arrest and, of course, Mark Walter's ongoing insurance fraud scandal. These two stories, though, Nick, are obviously different in substance and legal circumstances, but they do share an important media question. Why does coverage sometimes become significantly quieter when the subject is an owner, a billionaire, or powerful executive rather than a player, coach, or celebrity? For York, of course, the question is particularly notable because the NFL owners occupy an unusual position in sports media and among the most powerful people in professional sports, yet they are generally subjected to substantially less day-to-day scrutiny than players do, while the Walter story presents a even broader sports business challenge because his financial interests extend across multiple industries and sports properties. But of course, Nick, this is the big question, though. Why, though, is Jed York's arrest and scrutiny around Mark Walter receiving the same sustained limited national sports media attention that similar controversies involving players or coaches routinely receive? And is the sports media industry too reluctant to aggressively investigate the people who own these teams, like these two men that we are talking about here this afternoon?
Well, before that, it's an update to this story, actually. So yes. Mark Walter has come out and made a large statement.
Really?
And Front Office Sports has done a story on it, which I opened. Mark Walter's company says there's no fraud, no victim, and no fire sale. So Mark Walter's TWG Global came out firing today, saying it has committed no fraud, rejecting the idea that Walter's Lakers exit was part of a fire sale to raise money amid federal investigations, and insisting the Dodgers are not for sale. The press release marks the most substantial public statement since news broke that Walter's companies are under parallel investigations by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. The quote, over the past several weeks, multi-pronged attacks against TWG excuse me, have been advanced by unnamed sources with self-serving interests that have been reported in the media. It is important to set the record straight. TWG stands firmly behind the integrity of its business and remains focused on continuing to deliver value to its stakeholders. Investigators are looking into at least two of Walter's companies, Delaware Life and Clear Spring Life and Annuity. TWG statement says there has been no fraud and notes there is no victim here. No one has been harmed and no one has claimed they were harmed. It also says TWG is committed to working with the DOJ and SEC to resolve their inquiries, and that if it has presented a plan to address any regulatory concerns, a representative for the SEC declined to comment, and representatives for the DOJ and SDNY did not immediately respond.
Okay, that's cool and all, but still, the Lakers sale still makes me think that there's something larger out there, because you don't, Nick, sell the Los Angeles Lakers. You don't sell the New York Yankees for that price tag after you've only had the team for 14 months because of something like this happening.
It doesn't make sense because you bought the team and then you sell it within a little over a year. What have I told you about buying teams? They're gold mine investments. People are investing in ownership of teams. It doesn't make sense that all of a sudden you buy the team, you sell it for $12.5 billion, at least your valuation of it, and you're telling me you don't need that money? And the FBI and the DOJ are investigating you for insurance fraud, and you're telling me that the sale just magically happened in thin air? And by the way, if you remember when I read the story, when we were talking about the ownership, remember how I said there were anonymous owners that came out and said, why wasn't there a process to find a new buyer? Usually that's what happens. And that didn't happen here. All of a sudden, we snapped our fingers, and all of a sudden the Lakers were sold for $12.5 billion to Bob Iger and Kushner all of a sudden. So what happened here? Like, something is not adding up. Like, the feelers are up here, because for him to claim that there's no fraud, why did you make the sale so fast?
Yeah, why was the sale made so fast? Why has there been reports out there, as we talked about, Nick, about them trying to exit the local TV deals for both the Lakers and the Dodgers early for a lump sum payment to pay off the loans that apparently have been outstanding for roughly $21 billion? Like, I mean, okay, the statement's one thing to kind of cover your ass, but I don't think anyone's going to buy it. I'm not buying it.
Well, let me give you another part of this story. So the issues at hand mirror claims made in a 2014 lawsuit. The money one of the plaintiffs paid into her life insurance policy was used to fund a $35 million loan that was connected to the purchase of the Dodgers. Although that suit was dropped one day after it was filed, the forensic accountant who helped build the case recently told Front Office Sports, "My clients seem pleased. That's all I can say." Something's not adding up.
So you mean to tell me that your mom and dad, or my mom and dad's life insurance payments through that company went to buying the damn Dodgers? What's up with that?
Allegedly. We don't know for sure.
If that's the case, though, really?
Well, when you're dealing with sleazy billionaires, they will do anything to make a buck. And when you put it into insurance companies, think about it. Less taxable assets. Because if you put it into accounts, it's being shelled, so the money can't be taxed. Now, in Wednesday's statement, TWG says the allegation that the Dodgers were acquired or have been funded improperly is false and not supported by facts. It also notes that the 2012 deal was subject to significant scrutiny and complied with all rules and regulations that govern the purchase of Major League Baseball teams. I'm not buying that at all. Just not. Further, it says the Dodgers have the highest revenue in baseball, and that the team's revenue significantly exceeds its payroll obligations. Gee, I wonder why.
It's called deferred money.
It's called deferred money, and also you're putting money into insurance accounts. Also, think about the TV deal, which was money that they paid into an insurance account and gave to themselves. What did you say?
Nothing. Go on.
Oh. They're paying themselves to run the franchise and the TV. Okay? They're not making money. They're essentially like twisting the way the money is getting back to themselves through these insurance companies. And Mark Walters saying, oh, there's no fraud here.
God, it reminds me of a fellow LA owner, too.
Who?
Steve Ballmer.
Oh, Steve Ballmer, which the NBA claims is no fraud. Like, it's amazing to me that like we're protecting all these LA assets and we don't want to. Oh, it's Los Angeles, the second biggest market. We're not going to do anything to these guys.
There you go. You just answered your question right there, sir.
I'm just saying it's ridiculous. Like, it also says here that the idea that Walter could look to sell the Dodgers in order to raise funds, amid what sources have called a cash crunch and a liquidity crunch, did not come out of thin air. Walter stunningly sold the Lakers to Kushner and Iger for $12.5 billion valuation and is in talks to sell his stake in the Premier League soccer team Chelsea. Okay. And you're telling me there's no fraud?
There's definitely something there. You just don't want to admit it.
But that's every billionaire. They don't want their dirty business out in the public. But when you're a billionaire, you're a public person, public influencer in a sense.
Yeah.
So you're kind of shit out of luck when it comes to whether you committed fraud. Now, again, allegedly, because there's no court case yet. They're not filing charges. In addition to denying the Dodgers up for grabs, TWG says Walter's stake in the Cadillac Formula One team is not for sale. Because I think we've heard that too.
Stan Kasten said that, I think, as of last Sunday, that he was very adamant about that as well.
Walter also owns the Sparks. We haven't heard anything about the Sparks. And
it wouldn't shock me, though, if that team got sold because they have really Wile E. Coyote into the wall because they have just not been the same team in 10 years.
It's like one of the worst runs that they've been on the last couple of years. And he's also the sole owner of the PWHL,
which just expanded to Hamilton, Detroit, and Vegas and San Jose this upcoming season.
Something smells. That's all I'm going to say here. Like, you know how like when you or not, I'm thinking of like when you throw the flares and the colored smoke comes out.
Yeah.
Like there's a trail going on here. And Mark Walter is basically playing damage control so he doesn't have to deal with the press or deal with the media. This is not over by any means. And my prediction, by the end of the year, we're going to hear some sales. He's going to have to sell something because
and it wouldn't shock me. And it wouldn't shock me if it was the Sparks, maybe the PWHL, Chelsea for sure, especially if they have a down season again in the EPL. I mean, the Dodgers sale for me doesn't really feel like it will happen because of all that deferred money. I mean, unless you ask Jeff Bezos to buy the team, as I said last Tuesday. But even then, I mean, I would love nothing more as a San Diego native to watch that entire empire just collapse like Rome did at one point in time.
I hope that happens, but when billionaires have power and money, they will do anything in their power to make sure they don't lose it. Go ask Jeannie Buss how that's working out.
Yeah, speaking of ownership changes, Nick, the San Diego Padres formally introduced the new ownership group on Monday afternoon, welcoming in Jose E. Feliciano and his wife, Kwanzaa Jones, on Monday at Petco Park, as baseball approved the sale and transfer of control on August 17th, with Feliciano being named the club's designated control person, and Jones and Feliciano jointly leading the ownership group, while also the Padres, though, Nick, in a very classy gesture, left Peter Seidler's name up on the ownership chain, though, as a in memoriam owner of the franchise. The press conference, though, on Monday did highlight those several themes, including continuing the Seidler family legacy, more community involvement across San Diego and Tijuana, Baja California, long-term commitment, winning, building more relationships in San Diego County, and, of course, trying to finally win the franchise's first World Series championship in franchise history. Jones also entered the press conference, though, Nick, with a highly personal presentation, including music she wrote herself and recorded herself after the robbed Grand Slam done by Fernando Tatis Jr. in New York last Tuesday. The contrast between Jose's personality, or between Kwanzaa's personality, I should say, and Jose's more measured, business-oriented approach created a fascinating first impression of the new ownership group in San Diego. Nick, after seeing the public introduction on Monday, what do you believe that Jose E. Feliciano and Kwanzaa Jones need to prove to San Diego before fans bully them or fully buy in to this new era away from, of course, winning the World Series?
I'm just going to get the joke out of the way now. Feliz Navidad. Sorry.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa. By the way, that's no accident. I said that to Callan as I was walking my brother's dog, and I said, "How many times do you think they've heard Feliz Navidad?" Or
and it should be mentioned, by the way, that Jose was adamant that we call him, or that we call him, and the media calls him Jose E. Feliciano, where there is no connection to Jose Feliciano, the famous Mexican singer.
So now he's got Stephen A. Smith treatment now. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I heard Jose E. Feliciano. I was like, oh God, it's Stephen A. Smith Part 2 now. Look, I went back and I watched the press conference. It reminded me of any other ownership introduction in some aspects. You're excited. You take over a team. You talk about who's doing what. It's interesting.
Short-term goals, long-term goals, future goals, all that stuff.
What's interesting about this ownership compared to a lot of others, it's very broken down, like over a bunch of groups and people. You don't see that as much, but you see a lot of different smaller groups on top of them being the majority owner coming in. Now, they did talk about, Jose and Kwanzaa talked about trying to bring local community, and that was a big thing. First of all, it shouldn't just be the Padres. It should be every team focusing on their communities, because that's how you grow a fan base. But this is the first time I've heard billionaire owners walk in the door and really say, we're going to try and be part of that community, be part of everything that's around the ballpark. Now, I can't remember who asked the question, but I thought it was a unique question talking about, I'm forgetting the name of the soccer franchise that they own.
Chelsea.
Oh, Oh, they're part of Chelsea too. I didn't realize that. Like, how is that going to affect like the crossover? When are you going to be like in San Diego? It's a fair question considering you're
totally.
And you'll probably see him there for the first year in a huge capacity, because that's how most ownership happens. When new ownership comes in, they want to be there in a full capacity for a year. And then as it kind of whittles down, you'll see him every so often show up to games. I thought Kwanzaa was funny during the ownership press conference.
Very much energetic, which I thought was a nice little shot in the arm.
I can't remember, but there was like a 10-second clip that everyone was putting around on social media. Do you remember that?
It was a clip, I think, because she wrote a song before the introductory press conference that they had played a bunch of B-roll to, and it was that "We're gonna win, we're gonna win, we're gonna win" was the lyric, and that kind of made its way around social.
Now, as great as most of the press conference was, and you're gonna have to remind me the guy's name again because I can't remember.
Tom Kraskovic.
I thought he asked one of the most tone-deaf, dumbest questions in the entire press conference, talking about, oh, you went to Princeton, and how did you get to make your money? I don't remember. Do you remember the exact question or no?
Yeah, and I mentioned that Tom had asked a very dumb question year one of when I was covering the Wave when they were playing at Torero Stadium about, he wrote a very sleazy article that, the last time there was a meaningful football game in Seattle involving San Diego and Seattle was the Chargers-Seahawks game before the team left. And, he's asking these, two soccer players and the head coach about.
They're not going to know.
And they look at each other like, what do we do here?
They weren't around when that.
Exactly.
So I just thought that was a very tone-deaf question, just talking about her time at Princeton. and how she made her money and what they're going to do here. I don't think one has to do with the other,
No.
to be quite honest. I thought the press conference was great for the most part. It was weird. During the press conference, they didn't know where to look because I guess they're not used to doing a baseball
Yeah.
press conference or a media session, so they don't know where to look. But I think they'll be fine, but I need to see how they do. And I'm not even going to say this year. I'm going to put this year as a wash because they walked
Yeah.
in the middle of the season. I need to see what happens if we have a season. I need to see how the first full year goes with them. What are they going to implement? Now, I did read reports that they might tone down some of the spending,
Yes.
which means if they're going to tone down spending, that means they're going to have to cut payroll if they're going to tone down
More
the
than
spending.
likely.
So I don't know if that means the big contracts, possibly that they're going to have to cut or trade or try to figure that out. But I don't know. I won't know until they do the first full year of what's going to happen.
Yeah. By the way, that quote, though, Nick, to your point, though, about, when they were addressing their roster philosophy and the financial management, as you were saying about maybe cutting some payroll, they said they're going to go about their means ambitiously and with a judicial approach, though, and we're going to live within our means. That could mean different things in different years, but again, we want to win, and we're going to continue supporting that goal in many different ways. We will be aggressive, but always do it with the long-term health of the franchise in mind. That's what they said.
Yeah, and I believe them. I believe that they're sincere people, but until I see the first full year in action, like from start to end, it's hard to evaluate currently because right now they're dealing with the payroll under the former Seidler ownership,
Yes.
which the family still has.
They still have
I'm
ownership
not
stake,
tone
yes.
deaf to that. Like I know they still managed to keep what, like 5% or something.
I think so, yeah.
So they still are part of the ownership. You have the Joey and Jesse Butts who are now part of the
Just
ownership.
announced this morning, yes. They have 5% of the franchise. I think more names will come out, though, as the next couple of weeks come out.
I mean, I think is Breeze going to be part of that or no?
He was mentioned. I mean, he was mentioned early on, though, but until they actually release the entire minority ownership group, we don't know yet, except for what we know today about Joey and Jesse Buss.
Because I think his name is going to get announced at
Oh, yeah.
some point.
I think
But
so.
well, I think the Buzz family doesn't want to deal with their sister anymore. But
Blame him.
no, but it's a good day. It's a good time for the San Diego ownership, the Padre ownership. But I need to see what the fiscal plan, or not even the fiscal plan, the plan of what they're going to do.
Yeah, just real quick thoughts here. I made my thoughts known on Substack over at Mr. Small Market Sports. You can find it there, where I kind of wrote about, because I actually covered the press conference from home, actually, and, took all the, best quotes I could, though, and kind of wrote some thoughts at the very end, though. Nick, in a way, I don't want to, maybe I should. The press conference reminded me a little bit, though, of like the Steve Ballmer press conference when he introduced Kawhi and Paul George, just about the general excitement about this being a new day for a franchise, Nick, as you know very well, has been to the World Series twice, has not won at all. They've been, they're stuck, in that very weird part of Southern California where you got two other baseball teams to the north of you. One of them, has won the last two World Series, and they're your biggest rival and stuff of that nature. That, I loved it, though, Nick, as well, because I actually heard the term small market used 5 different times.
I did hear that
over the course of the press conference. But also, the thing I also had noticed a lot, though, Nick, and I think this is because of the fact that Jose is now the second Latino owner in pro baseball, a lot of mentions about getting back to reaching back out to Tijuana, Baja California. That was a very big thing, Nick, 30 years ago when John Moores first bought the club from Tom Warner and the troubled group of 15 that, of course, ran out McGriff, ran out Sheffield, ran out Joe Carter, ran out Robbie Alomar in fire sales, that they wanted to tap back into the Tijuana, Baja California community. When you have a Latino-born owner, Nick, and also now with Kwanzaa, first black owner in baseball for a female in baseball, that is a huge thing that you have to do in this community, Nick. And that's also partially why SDFC plays Club Tijuana every Mexican Independence Day in September for an exhibition game to bring that fan base that is so well received here in town across the border for a night of soccer. And maybe things get out of control, though. But I think, though, Nick, I'll say this. it was a bit refreshing away from the Seidler Group when they bought the franchise to see so much excitement around this city. I mean, I was on social media, reposting things though, and every comment I saw whenever Kwanzaa shared content was like, "This is like refreshing that we actually have like a group who is bringing so much, energy," as you said though. But again, you really can't fairly judge them on August 26th after the teams lost back-to-back games to Nate Miller's Pirates. That's not an indication on them. They're coming in though at the back nine of the season though, and like you said, you have to see how this plays out though in the short term and the long term. As they also, I think though, Nick did a great job of mentioning about short term, long term, and decades down the road.
Yeah, like I said, they're nice people. They look like they respect the organization, that they're going to treat it with respect. But the biggest thing I got out of it is they said they need to tone down and control the payroll, which you don't want to be a Dodgers, and I can say this because it's my team. I'm about to say you don't want to be a Yankees. You don't want to be a Mets where you're just drunkenly spending. And
Could you be
don't
more
get me
like
wrong,
Red Sox, maybe?
maybe, well, but they have a full
Yeah,
ownership group that owns soccer, and I think they owned the Penguins until they sold them.
yeah.
Um,
Penguins keep getting sold left and right. It's pathetic.
but it's just one of those things where, like I said, I need to see a full, complete year of the ownership. I think they will do great because they want to actually work within the community. And why wouldn't you? You want the community in because they're the ones that are going to support the team at the highest level.
And
So
especially, Nick, as I make the mention all the time here, you're in a marketplace that is so unique because you have baseball 24/7, 365, with there being no NFL franchise here. So you have the marketplace all to yourself away from soccer.
that's true. We have a interesting update to a story we're going to do later, but this just broke from Adam Schefter.
Uh-oh.
So the NFL will provide clarity to clubs later today regarding league rules governing player eligibility
Which we're going to get to actually here in a second. Yes.
that have been in place and remain unaltered. But here's the wrinkle. A player that goes back to college this season will be prohibited from signing with an NFL team this year. But that sounds like they're still allowing it.
Which makes no sense.
I mean, if they do this, I think it's the right direction,
I think so.
but we shouldn't allow it. But
Yeah.
now we're getting some clarity from the NFL side. But go ahead.
So with that, Nick, this story has evolved, though, in the last roughly 12 hours or so. But the NCAA's evolving eligibility rules have created an unusual possibility of athletes who have already entered professional football or even pro basketball could potentially come back to college. Recent legal developments surrounding eligibility have created a very confusing environment, mainly for athletes affected by the transition between the old eligibility structure and newer 5-year rules in place for the class of 2022. The result is a growing gray area between college sports and pro sports. The presumption, though, of former NFL or NBA players returning back to college basketball or football creates obvious questions about competitive balance, roster construction, NIL, scholarships, and whether college football is effectively becoming another pro development pathway, which also involves both the Big Ten Conference saying no to this and also within the last hour, a 16-0 unanimous vote by the SEC of all conferences saying that they're not going to allow this team to go forward, though. So with that in mind, though, Nick, if a player has already played in the NFL or NBA somewhere, should college football or basketball really be able to become an option again once they leave behind college athletics? The answer is no.
No. The answer is no. What I remember, and I mentioned this to you when we were putting this story together, back in the day, before NIL, okay? What was the rules when you entered the NFL draft or the NBA draft? If you signed with an agent, you were not allowed to go back to the NFL or the NBA. That was a clear as day rule, because once you sign with an agent, you're basically saying goodbye to all the learning and the draft and the playing in college. What now with all the NIL rules? What is the big thing I've been saying the whole time? There's no regulation for NIL, and now that you can sign with an agent, that rule can no longer be in play. So now it's led to this weird paradox where you can go back and forth. And You could say, oh, I went to the NFL. I didn't do well. Oh, let me see if I can go get my eligibility back at the college football level. This is so messed up. You have college athletes who are making their way from high school to college, or you have guys moving up on their team, going from senior to sophomore to whatever, and they now have to give back their spots so that a guy who was on an NFL roster is going to be allowed to come back to college football. What the hell is that? What is this? Like I said, we're living in a paradox where these NFL players are saying, oh, you know what? I didn't do well and I got cut. Oh, I'm going to go back to college and I'm going to get an NIL deal.
Daquan
Wright, who was cut from the Cleveland Browns. Wow, irony of all teams we're going to talk about. And gets an NIL deal to go to LSU.
Oh, and that's right, to play for his former head coach at Ole Miss named Lane Kiffin.
Which, by the way, Lane Kiffin is all for this rule. He's all for it. Leave it to the sleaziest coach on the coaching tree that wants to take advantage of everybody to gain people. He used to be a former NFL coach.
Yes, he was. I agree.
So now he's taking advantage of the system, which is messed up.
For anyone who doesn't believe me when I say that I already lived through this nightmare about this paradox of a player going pro and coming back to college basketball, there you go. This is Churi Darlin, who was playing for the, and you can see it here, folks. I'll zoom in for you. Look where he was before he came back to college.
He was in the G League.
The Delaware Bluecoats are the NBA G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. And he came back to college basketball last season.
I'm telling you,
that's all I have to say.
This paradox where we're just going to allow guys to go back and forth and say, you know what, my tenure in the NFL sucked. I'm now going to go back to college. And here's the other thing that we don't know the answer to for Daquan Wright. He's got to go to classes if he wants the NIL money. Is Daquan Wright going to go to school and go to classes? I mean this sincerely. Like,
I know
that it's part of the rules that you have to maintain like a 2.3 or a 2.5 GPA to get an NIL deal. And by the way, NIL deals are private, so I can't tell. I've been trying to find if anybody leaked it. He's probably making millions of dollars off that NIL deal.
Absolutely. I mean, you know LSU's got enough Brinks trucks down there in Baton Rouge to pay these players to come play for Kiffin.
But the other messed up thing is NIL deals are worth more than what the minimum salary is in the NFL.
I know. Can you believe that? I mean, it's even more than, I think, league minimum in baseball, which I think is like $800,000.
I'm looking up what the NFL league minimum. So the league minimum is $885,000. Now, Daquan Wright was making more than the league minimum. He had like a 4-year, $3.5 million deal or something. But I just don't get it. Why these guys are allowed to go back. What?
Nick, we have an update to the NHL expansion story that we talked about last week involving Houston and Atlanta, perhaps Phoenix, Arizona, going for team spot 34.
Yeah, they want the two teams. That's the next two they're talking about.
Well, Houston is practically, I think, already a shoo-in, but we have a development, though, about team 34.
Okay.
The city council in Alpharetta, Georgia, north of downtown Atlanta, has voted 4-3 to approve redeveloping the North Point Mall into a new mixed-use entertainment district and featuring a new arena to house a potential third Atlanta NHL franchise.
When are they going to realize it doesn't work? So we're just, what is that other saying that I say to you all the time? When you try the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result? Insanity?
Yes.
Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Fox 5 Atlanta reports that the plan is to build a 20,000-seat new arena for the potential return of the Atlanta Thrashers, which would make this the second biggest arena in the NHL behind Montreal's Le Centre Bell. The site would also be home to 4,000-seat music hall and performing arts center, a 2,000-seat community hockey rink for practices, and a 1,100-seat movie theater and a 35,000-square-foot hotel conference center, and hundreds of rooms across 2 hotel buildings. Interestingly enough, though, this is one of 2 groups trying to bring a franchise to the area, with one more project being floated around, though, in Forsyth County, 7 miles away from Atlanta, according to Atlanta's Channel 5 News.
So when they waste all their money doing all this and the Atlanta franchise is a failure again, what are they going to say then?
We're going to try for a 4th time.
Definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
That's why I don't think Atlanta or Phoenix is going to work. Houston will be fine, but I don't think you go back to Arizona, you go back to Atlanta, it's going to be the same result again if this happens.
But what about the same issue, playing hockey in a warm weather state, except for Florida, which figured it out? But usually
California figured it out. Texas has figured it out. Nevada's figured it out for sure.
But it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Always. But to get back to this is a disaster. Okay? This is going to cause problems. You can't control regulation but now anymore between college football and the National Football League. What is the point of having a NFL draft anymore if guys can get drafted to the NFL and then go back to college football?
No kidding.
That's the problem here. And another thing I proposed on ETB Sports yesterday, to make the incentive that will force you to the NFL, there should be a rule in place for NILs that the highest NIL deal you can get is the minimum salary of the NFL.
Fair. I like that idea.
Because what does that say to a current college football athlete that if the highest ceiling they can get is the NFL minimum salary, what do you think they're going to do?
Oh, exactly.
I'm going to head off to the NFL. I'm going to go get the bag, which remember when there was no NIL and these guys were hungry to get to the NFL draft because they want to make that money being drafted as high as they, but that's gone now.
Oh, it is.
Because if I can make millions of dollars on an NIL deal, why am I rushing to the NFL draft?
Exactly. I'm just going to let this prolong for as long as I can.
And go ask Trinidad Chambliss, who went to the Supreme Court to fight for what, a 6th year? Did he win that? I don't even remember.
I think he did.
How many years are you going to? You really think he's going to classes?
No.
He wants the money because he knows he's not going to survive in the NFL. I remember the days when, if you were like on the midline, whether to be like you were good enough, but you were not good enough to go to the NFL, that was the end of your career. You had to go do something else. Now with NIL money, you don't have to do anything else.
Or if you didn't make the NFL, you went and played in Canada or in the Arena Football League.
Well, they don't have to do that anymore as long as they get an NIL deal for millions of dollars. And then they're creating their own brands. That's the new big thing now. It's like what you said with some of the athletes at San Diego, where like they're doing branding for sunscreen companies.
Sunscreen, energy drinks, you name it, yes.
Which, should they really be having energy drinks as an athlete? That's a whole different issue. This is a disaster. And it's just going to, I think, and this is going to sound bold, and for anyone, our NFL guys, I'm about to say here, if we're going to, if this is going to be allowed, where they're going to be allowed to go back and forth, cancel the NFL draft.
Why not?
But Nick,
I mean, the NWSL already abolished the college draft, and now they're free to sign with any team that they want to sign with.
But Nick, why? Because you're allowing people to go back and forth. What's the point of having an NFL draft?
You know what, though? And I think I remember Nick saying that, with the way that we're going here, I think what you have to do is, if you want to abolish the NFL draft, you know what you do? You maintain the draft order, and that team, you go down the list, like it's like a waiver system. They get priority 1, 2, 3 to sign players. And if they don't sign a player within a certain amount of hours or a day, the next team gets to negotiate with them.
But there needs to be more rules, because and by the way, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. The court system is effing this up too.
which went to my point on cranium on Monday, where I basically said that it varies from state to state. Like I said about, DraftKings being illegal out in California still, despite this, September 2nd launch date for whatever they're doing, that in college sports, though, with this whole thing, it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction wherever you're at.
Well, put that aside for a second. You're right, but put that aside. What I meant was that the court system is allowing injunctions.
Yes.
Now, let me be very clear when I make this statement. An injunction is not a choice. An injunction means we're going to hold it up in the court system, sometimes months, sometimes years, until they find time to deal with this situation. If this takes years, you might have a guy that goes back to college football and then ends up on the draft board again.
Yeah, and all we have to say is Brendan Sorsby.
Well, that's a gambling issue. But my point is, I'm waiting for the day, like Daquan Wright, who, if it's allowed by the system that he goes back to LSU, does that mean he can go be eligible for the NFL draft again?
You would think so, right?
But how can you be eligible for the NFL draft again if you were already drafted? That's the question I'm asking everybody here.
Yeah.
NILs are destroying everything because it's leading to people going back and forth. Daquan Wright's not going back to LSU for free. Anyone who thought he was going back to LSU for shits and giggles to bring his stock up, you're a liar.
Yep.
People don't realize how insane this is, that people are just crossing the line. I didn't do well in the NFL. I'll just go back to college. No biggie. I'll be the big man on campus again.
And that went to my point on Monday, though, as well, Nick, before we get to our top of the hour break here, that I mentioned on Monday about, one of my friends who works in radio here is a high school football coach at Cathedral Catholic. My dad coaches high school baseball, here, in our neighborhood. I feel bad for them because what if you're potentially grooming this high school player, quarterback or starting pitcher, to maybe become, this 4 or 5-star recruit, though, but then you have some schmuck like Daquan Wright who doesn't make it in the NFL come back and take his roster spot, though, at a college he's going to.
Well, that's what I said earlier, that they're coming back and taking spots from potential, 5-star.
Yeah.
And this might be a reality. Like, you might be taking a potential 5-star recruit spot because you're so worried you want the NFL guys back. And this is the other thing. We talk about how it's a money thing, how these NILs, everything. The schools are doing this because they want to make money. Forget if these college athletes are making money or if anybody else is making money. The school wants to make money too. Just because they have these NIL boosters, all this stuff, the school has to make money too. That's why they want the NFL guys back. Think about it. They have an NFL reputation already. So they're thinking, oh, they were in the NFL. We'll bring them back in because they have connections to the NFL. Who cares?
Exactly.
It's over.
All right, Nick, as a reminder, though, the Empty the Bench Network is pleased to announce that the network has surpassed 3,000 watch hours right here on YouTube, and we cannot thank you, the viewers, enough for your outstanding support in making this possible. Thanks to viewers like you, in the coming days and still about roughly the next week or so, we will begin to roll out all the details about super chats, super stickers, super thanks, channel membership tiers, perks, merch store, and so much more. We thank you again for your support of ETB Network programming. Nick, I think we're hopefully getting close to hearing a resolution about the 3,000-hour goal being hit from AdSense.
It's been almost 2 weeks. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks. They said it takes 2 to 3 weeks. And you would think they would find a faster process to do this stuff, but who the hell knows at this point?
Exactly.
But you know what? It's a big goal. 3,000 watch hours is a big thing. 180,000 minutes of content have been watched on our channel.
Damn.
Take that, Isaiah Leung, and shove it up where the sun don't shine. Because you won't even face me anymore. But you know what? It's a big deal, and we have a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of NFL stuff, a lot of college football stuff, including a show we'll talk about probably in the end of next hour. That is making its return premiere.
Yes.
But with the football stuff, we will get to 4,000 watch hours. And we have to get there before February, what was it, 1st? Yeah. Because if we don't get there before February 1st, they're changing it from 4,000 to 8,000, and then I'm going to want to pull my hair out. So we're on a watch hour goal that we need to reach. We're less than 1,000 watch hours away from 3,000. So please do your part. Watch our shows, like, comment, subscribe. YouTube.com/CTB Network. Go over and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Even if you like our show, come over and watch. There's other amazing shows. We have 17 of them that we share across this great network. So if you do it for any of the shows you like, if you like our NFL shows, our college football shows, our generic sports talk shows, ETB Sports, Moving the Goalpost. If you like something intellectual, Callan's Cranium, Bando's Breakdowns, Fight IQ. Tom Lovano does a really good job. I had Chris Cyborg in the live chat on Monday, which shocked me. I was like, whoa. What else do we have? What else am I missing that I haven't mentioned category? Oh, Between the Ropes. We have WWE content. We have so many things, and there's so many other ideas that we have that we're working on down the road. The ETB Locked In show, which we're talking about, which is trapping people in a room and trying to get them out. I think we're going to put a time limit, though, on that. I think we don't want people
It'll
sitting
be like
there
Banana
forever.
Ball. We'll have a 2-hour time limit.
Yeah. Which is kind of based loosely off of Barstool After Dark a little bit. But we have a lot of great things. Go over and subscribe. YouTube.com/ETB Network, and go do your due diligences and help us out. A simple subscribe, a simple watch of a show is all we ask in this day and age. We're over 1,165 subscribers, so please help us out. All right, let's move on to hour 2, and of course, we're going to start in the NFL ho-hum with Deshaun Watson's apology. Yeah, I looked at this headline and I said, really? So Deshaun Watson apologized after criticizing Cleveland Browns fans following a preseason loss to the Bills. Watson was booed during the Browns' 31-7 preseason loss to the Bills and initially described the reaction as disrespectful and personal. He subsequently walked those comments back, acknowledging that emotion played a role in his reaction. The timing is significant because Watson was simultaneously named Cleveland's starting quarterback, for week 1 of the 2026 season. The Browns are now attempting to move forward with Watson as QB1 despite an extremely complicated relationship between the quarterback and its fan base. Can Deshaun Watson actually repair his relationship with Browns fans, or has that relationship become permanently broken?
I will defer my thoughts to Don LaGreca.
You see him in the mall of Willowbrook, boo his ass. If you see him on the DMV, boo him. Don't stop booing him. If he goes to the Pro Bowl, boo him. If he wins a Super Bowl, boo his sorry ass.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, Deshaun Watson is a bad guy. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. I mean, 27 civil lawsuits, which somehow got dropped. Gee, NFL and civil lawsuits being dropped. Where have we heard that one before? Look, it was a brain fart in every way, shape, or form. Getting angry at fans, disrespecting the fans. But here's what these athletes forget to realize. The fans pay for your damn salary. The fans pay to keep the doors open at the stadium. Okay? Why are you disrespecting the fans? Why?
Yeah.
Because you're a bad guy and you're a defensive individual, you're going to take it out on the fans?
Precisely.
27 civil lawsuits is where I'm going to stand on right now. Didn't have any charges, but you're a bad guy.
Nick, I said on Monday, though, on Inside the Cranium, that too many times when I did watch American football, that we seem to have these budding stars in college who seem to win all the time, like Watson, Tebow, Trevor Lawrence, for example. Then they get to the NFL, Nick, and it seems like we all lose our patience when they don't win right away. I think Trevor Lawrence never lost a game until he got to the NFL in his whole career. Like, he had gone, like, unbeaten, like, his whole life. Or somebody out there had gone unbeaten from, like, high school to college, and then eventually, Nick, They go to the NFL, and it's like a welcome to reality moment where I think we're so quick, though, Nick, to then throw or discard these players when they don't succeed right away after they've had this success over and over and over and over, like Tua, for example, or Trevor Lawrence or what have you, and that they need some time to, get themselves acquainted, though. But, though, Nick, the Deshaun Watson thing, though, has just been a massive I mean, can the Browns have any more low points in their restarted franchise history, though, Nick, at all, between 30 quarterbacks they've gone through in the last 20 years as a franchise, and that Watson might become the first Brown quarterback since the late, great Bernie Kosar to win two week one starts, though, in recent memory. I mean, that there's nobody to blame here, Nick, except for the Haslam family for giving this guy this ridiculous contract that I think, as I made the mention on Monday, I think is 22% of their salary cap going forward. And it doesn't help, though, Nick, too, that you've had the off the field issues with Deshaun Watson involving, as you said, though, with all the massage parlor, lawsuits and stuff. It doesn't help, though, Nick, when then you go and target the fan base. As I said, though, on Monday, you got to block that out. These are your paying customers. These are the people paying your salary. You take any sort of sideswipe at that fan base, they're going to be allowed to tell you how they feel in some way, shape, form, or size. And I get it, though. I said this, though, I think 2 weeks ago, Nick, when I was, losing my absolute mind about the WNBA, not focusing on the court basketball, and talking about Enes Kanter and Royce White and Larry
don't
Saunders,
you worry, we'll get there.
and what have you. That at the end of the day, though, Nick, you need to learn to, in a way, accept that the fan base can be where they're at. And especially when you're a Cleveland Brown fan, Nick, you've not seen any success in your lifetime except maybe the 70s and 80s era Browns where they went to Baltimore and then they came back in 99.
This franchise has been in peril for decades. I feel bad for the fan base at times because they've seen terrible football. They've not had a decent quarterback. And you have the balls to call out the fans and say they're being disrespectful to you? What have you done to earn their respect?
Nothing except be a troublemaker off the field, though, and you've had injury problems up the wazoo, as you would say.
And the only reason that you were named the starter is because Shadur Sanders is not a quality starting quarterback. And
yet
he's not going to be. I'm putting my stamp on that one now. The other thing is, when you're guaranteed, $230 million, fully guaranteed, by the way. So another Haslam goof as the owner of the Browns or the Bucks. You're stuck. You're not going to cut him because the dead money is somewhere between 80 and 90 million. Okay? You're not going to just eat that money. So they have to make a choice. Do they want to eat that money? Or do they want to try and get something 10 cents off the dollar? Now, you're alienating your fan base because, to be honest, Deshaun Watson should not be in the league anymore.
I agree.
The problem is they're going to say, well, he was never officially charged with anything. Okay. But the whole process was horrible. And then he was injured before that.
Correct.
He's an injury-prone mess. See, if I was the Haslam family, I would have tried to get out from under this thing due to the injuries and the lawsuits. And they didn't try. If I was the owner of the team, I would have said, how do I get out? Can I get out? Legal stipulation, please.
But wait, Nick, there's more involving Deshaun Watson and the fallout from ESPN's Dan Orlovsky, who also had a strong reaction to Cleveland's decision to name Watson QB1. Dan did suggest that Browns fans should consider boycotting home games in response to the organization's decision. The debate is no longer simply about whether Watson should start, though, but has become a question of whether fans should financially support an organization whose quarterback has remained one of the most polarizing figures in pro sports and also across the NFL. As the Browns face an unusual business problem, how much does fan dissatisfaction actually affect a team organization when TV money, sponsorships, and league-wide revenue dominate the financial picture? Nick, would a fan base boycott actually have enough economic power in the NFL to influence a ownership decision? I would say probably not, though, even though we know, though, that I think that I remember it best, though, when the Jaguar fan base had that protest outside Everbank Field for them to sign Tim Tebow about, 10 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. $230 million, fully guaranteed. You could protest until you're blue in the face. Do you really think that Joe Haslam or what's his name?
Jimmy Haslam.
What?
Jimmy Haslam.
Sorry, Jimmy Haslam. Do you think Jimmy Haslam is going to eat all that money to make him go away? He's just not going to. It's a bad business move for Jimmy Haslam to do this, but at the same time, I think you need to save your franchise here. And how many freaking quarterbacks have they been through in the last 7-8 years? I've lost track. And by the way, I think Baker Mayfield smells like a rose now, considering let's not say he had no faults. He had plenty of faults. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield figured it out eventually in Tampa Bay, even though... What?
No, it's about the story, Nick.
Oh, okay.
42 different quarterbacks since 1999 in Cleveland.
That's crazy.
Is
crazy.
That I wonder how much room that fan jersey that has all the different names listed, like it's a CVS pharmacy receipt, like how much further is that thing like on the ground dragging now like it's a wedding car?
Or gets stuck in the receipt filler trying to get it out? That's crazy. Now, I happen to agree with Dan Orlovsky saying that the fans should protest or not even protest, just not pay for tickets and show up. But you know this better than most, even not as an NFL fan, fans are not giving up the NFL.
Well, and especially, though, in a market like Cleveland, Nick, where those people go to those games, regardless if they win or they lose by 1,000 points and they go 0-16.
I say they're one of the most dedicated fan bases in the NFL.
1,000% for a shit franchise that those fans love the Browns in Cleveland.
I mean, could you say for years, like the Chargers kind of felt that way a little bit, where they didn't feel like they were competitive?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, I think after 94, the club had a lot of, very unfortunate circumstances hit them after they went to the Super Bowl in 94, 95. They had, I think they lost 11 players from that team, death.
My point is, though,
plane crashes and stuff like that. But yeah, though, I mean, yeah, I saw the team go when they weren't winning all those division titles between 04 and 2014, roughly, and should have gone to the Super Bowl in 06 or 04 or 04, 05, 06, what have you. But I think, though, Nick, and I said this before, when Scott Kaplan, when he was working for CBS, goes on the air during a game at Qualcomm, and they show Dean Spanos in the owner's box like this, oh my God, what's going on? The second that people like me here, I have heard from Dean that he is leaning towards going to Los Angeles. That was when this city began to turn their back on the Chargers. And I remember, Nick, very well, going to the last game I went to was against the Chiefs when Alex Smith was quarterbacking for KC. And he basically ran, he rushed all over the Charger defense. I think we got beat 33-3. That was the day that they retired LT's number. But I looked down because I was in the west end zone at Qualcomm. And I'm looking down towards the Chiefs sideline. I think that was the first year that Reed had gotten there, I think, from Philadelphia. All you see is just a sea of red and mustard yellow. And when the Rams came here, it was all Ram gold and blue. When the Saints came here, it was all black and gold. When the Steelers came here, it was all, terrible towels and renegade. And
right.
then when the Bears came here with old friend Jay Cutler, all you saw was Bears fans across. And that's where I think that this community, Nick, got so turned off by the NFL and by the Chargers. Just hearing the words of even the thought of leaning towards going to LA, people gave up on the franchise.
Christy says the Dog Pound are possibly the most dedicated fan base in sports. I would say them.
And the Black Hole, the Raiders.
I was just going to say the former Raider fan base, and now I think it's a little different now, but when they were in Oakland...
It's a bit different, but they still have people that travel the games in Vegas. I still have friends who go to Charger games in LA. And again, I don't shit on them for that. It's fandom is fandom, but I choose not to do it.
I would say back in the day, though, Oakland Raiders
Oh,
fans.
Oakland Raider fans, San Diego Charger fans, St. Louis Ram fans, greatest show on turf in 99.
But I would say Oakland Raiders fans did like all the like they wore the spikes, they wore the
Darth
black.
Vader helmets, the
Like
face paint. I'm like, and you know what? What's even more hysterical? All those fans were like lawyers, attorneys, doctors, nurses. Like
yes,
they had like really good jobs, and yet they, in a way, like letting your hair down a little bit in
it
some
was the
capacity.
most it was the most even fan base across the
Yes.
board, from people who make no money to people who make a lot of money. Like it was the most even fan base of all time when it came to that regard of showing off being a fan. But I'm with Orlovsky here. Like fans shouldn't buy tickets. But maybe that's the only team, the sport that they were a fan of.
Yeah,
Maybe
sure, you got the Guardians who are in the thick of a MLB playoff run. You've got the Cavaliers coming off of a trip to the conference final last season or whatnot. But I think again, Cleveland fans resonate with the Browns more than probably the Guardians or even the Cavs.
probably.
Before you do that, I agree here that they are dedicated here. I mean, and I've seen a lot of them here in San Diego, even when they play the Chargers.
True. I agree. Raiders fans were everywhere, including when they were in Oakland. Dual action stories here.
Oh boy.
So the Seahawks ownership was officially announced.
$9.6 billion. Is that the
Yeah.
price tag?
NFL owners officially approved today the record $9.6 billion sale of the
Holy cow.
Seahawks to the Khosla family.
Who had to divest from the 49ers, if memory serves me correct.
Yes. So it's the biggest record sale in the NFL, almost $10 billion.
And just wait till the Jones family maybe sells the Cowboys in a few years if they do.
And again, it makes you ask the question, if the Seahawks were sold for almost $10 billion, what does that make the Cowboys?
20 billion?
Yeah, I would put a 2x on it at least. And then the other story, which it broke like an hour or so ago, has to do with the NFL college football thing.
Yes.
From Pete Thamel, ACC athletic directors met today, and there's momentum for the ACC to join the Big Ten and the SEC in banning NFL players.
Oh, just give it time. I eventually think, Nick, that the Power 4 schools are all going to say, we can't let this happen.
It says still a few more steps, including ACC board approval. There's momentum that the ACC will join the Big Ten and the SEC. You notice that we haven't heard a statement from the NCAA, right?
No, not yet.
You find that a little curious?
I do a little bit. I would also be curious, though, Nick, just again from my set of eyes over here about, will the West Coast Conference enact the same thing about NBA players who come back to college basketball because we don't have football in our conference?
So I guess we'll see what happens on that front. But wow, I guess we're getting more momentum where they're actually gaining the power to stop these cut NFL players from a roster to going backwards.
All right, Nick, biggest story in baseball, of course, revolves around the never-ending mystery around Diamondbacks infielder Ketel Marte, which his situation has now become, Nick, extremely more complicated over the past week or so. As we all know, though, Ketel Marte failed to report to a road game in Boston, leading Arizona to place him on the restricted list on Monday. He then was sent back to Arizona for an MRI on his ailing knee and hamstring and moved off the RL to the 10-day IL after the Diamondbacks identified inflammation in his left knee, with manager Torey Lovello describing himself as being both frustrated but also betrayed by the lack of communication by Marte when phone calls or text messages to him had also gone unresponded. And even further, teammate and also new closer Kevin Ginkel, Cal McClurg's former teammate, also shared his own frustration over Ketel's ongoing issues. However, though, Nick, the story only got worse, though, as the week has gone on, though, as then photographs emerging showed Marte at a Scottsdale, Arizona casino after having a rehab stint, though, at the team facility at Talking Stick, playing roulette while the D-backs were playing the Reds at home. Baseball, though, has in fact clarified that Marte was not violating team rules simply by being at the casino while on the IL. Players on the IL are not required to attend games home or away. The issue is therefore less about whether Marte technically broke a rule and more about trust, communication, and also optics. And of course, because as I already had said, though, last week, and on Monday on Cranium that this, again, complicates a very weird year-long issue for Cattell dating back to last season with his home being burglarized back in the DR, the video of him being visibly shaken emotionally by a degenerate gambler in Chicago about his mom being killed in a car crash. Now, of course, this thing happens here, Nick, though, and now you've had Torey Lovullo, the manager, go from being emotional after that game on Monday to feeling betrayed, though, by the player, being flustered by, again, the lack of communication by Cattell. Teammates now are kind of, in a way, attacking him in some capacity about, what's going on here. Of course, get healthy, but man, this is not right, though. And I also said, though, Nick, on Monday, how can this happen while you're now a game behind the lowly Padres right now in the wild card race by a game, to leave your team, though, high and dry at this critical juncture of the season with about, a week left of August and of course, all of September? Nick, this is going from being, one thing to, I think, though, really bad optics, though, for Cattell and how he right now is viewed, I think, by the Arizona fan base. But your thoughts on how the story has really, I think, spiraled so badly in about a week's time?
So here's the weird thing about this story. He's the star player.
Yeah.
Isn't he on the team? So usually you don't see the star player, well, at least in this magnitude,
Yeah.
causing trouble in this regard. Now, you are right. You and I did talk about the story last year about Cattell Marte getting bombarded by a degenerate gambler. I think it was at a White Sox game.
Yes. It was in Chicago. Yes.
And that fan had no right to make
No.
that comment. You're a degenerate gambler. Go get help if you don't like what's going on
And
the
stop
field.
betting on the Little League World Series, too.
Well, if we have time, maybe we'll do that later because I actually have some thoughts on that too. But look, if he has an injury, that's one thing. If he's rehabbing, that's one thing. It's not a good optic that you were in a casino gambling. Now, and you said, according to the report, that doesn't break a rule, him being in a casino. I'm sorry. I think that breaks an MLB rule. You're not supposed to be in a casino during your game. You don't think that's a little suspicious looking that he was in a casino during an active game?
I think it's suspicious, but I think I may have said on Monday that there are rules in place that when you are on the IL, you're away from the team. I made the mention about how, Trevor Hoffman, went through his shoulder problems in the early 2000s, and that, all he would do was just rehab with trainers. And then I think he would go out of his way to pay for like a spread from like Rubio's or, a restaurant when the guys would come back from a road trip, for example. I mean, optically nowadays, it's a very bad look now because of what we know about what's gone on, though, with, Kalshi making the announcement about that they've joined forces with the Dodgers and the Padres. And I think the Yankees with, deals for, Kalshi or Polymarket or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I was a D-backs fan, I would be very much livid right now that my star player in the thick of a playoff run right now, we're a game back of the Padres, and we've played even Steven with them all year, and that their offense sucks right now. How is our main guy not here? I mean, we had a rookie hit a walk-off homer to beat the Cubs yesterday, to beat Chicago, and now we're a game back of San Diego. Optically, though, this is a very bad. Nick, it's bad optically. The manager now has turned his back on you. Teammates are now turning their back on you, and I think the photos surfacing of you being at the casino at a roulette table. I know it's not a sports book though, because it's on tribal land in Arizona. I don't know about their sports betting laws in Arizona. Even that, optically speaking, terrible look for the star of this franchise to be having gone AWOL, basically not talking to teammates or the manager. I think they may have had to finally reel him in for a meeting, I think, with the ownership group. I'd be very concerned, though, Nick, if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, that my season might hinge now on our leadoff hitter or our number 2 guy not being here right now. And if it is an injury, then it should be an injury, though. But as I said, though, Nick, as well, though, I think 2 weeks ago on Cranium, I did not appreciate how the D-backs wound up spinning the story about it being restricted list ordeal. Then it became an IL stint, and then it went from there. What do you have, though?
So I just looked it up. Arizona legally has sports books.
I thought they did. Okay.
And they have DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Caesars, Bet365. They have physical sports books, which makes this even worse because from a 10,000 foot view, you're sitting in a casino, you're getting photographed. Okay. How do I know, or how do I not know if he hadn't spoken to the teammates.
And even worse, the casino he was in, per reports, does have a sports book on their property. So now it looks a million times worse now that he went to Talking Stick, which has a sports book on their tribal land.
So then I was right, possibly, for what I said last night.
Yeah.
There's rules for a reason, right?
Yes.
I mean, if this casino had a book in it, he's got to go away. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, because there's no way to prove whether he was betting on the team or not.
Right. Especially when you have the reports, though, that he was the only photo we really saw, I think, of him, Nick, was via sources that said he was at a roulette table. But again, who's not to say that he was, at the sports book, maybe watching his team play and, not being a model citizen for baseball.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. People are going to say, oh, we'll cut him some slack. He's going through mental health. We don't even know
we don't know if it's a mental health emergency, though.
Right. Well, he didn't show up to the game at Fenway Park that he was supposed to show up. There was reports that he was in the hotel, but he didn't show up to the game, which is also odd. Look, if he was in a casino with a sports book, he actually needs to be suspended.
Something.
Because actually, the rules are that you could be banned for life. If remember, they changed the rules.
Yes.
That you get banned if you're caught in a sports book. So I don't care if you're mentally, and I mean this because of the excuses being made.
Yes.
If you're dealing with mental health, go get help for your mental health issues. Don't go to a casino that has a sports book in it. You're making your situation worse. If you need to go rehab, go rehab. And by the way, there's other things you can do besides going to a casino if you need to get away from rehabbing all the time. Go see a movie. Do something else. Don't go to a sports book when you know it's potential to get you suspended. Plain and simple.
By the way, Nick, he has not played since August 16th when they lost to the Braves.
Wow, really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Well, because he's been hurt.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel bad for him for whatever he's going through, but if he's breaking rules, then the consequences have to come down.
All right, Nick, we're going to go from all things baseball to a very much, I think, ludicrous story in Southern California high school football up in up in Ventura County of Los Angeles. But, Nick, the story, though, broke over the weekend that Royal High School football coach Adam Brubaker has been dismissed and fired following an incident in which video showed him kicking a football towards a player during a practice and hitting the said player in the growing area. This came, though, Nick, during a non-contact period of the practice after a player had made a tackle on a teammate during a time where there was no contact allowed, though. Coach Brubaker said he kicked the football in frustration and that he did not intend to hit the player. The school district, I should say, did, though, investigate the matter at hand and removed him from his position before the team's home opener, which they still won, though, 62-0 on Friday. The story, though, Nick, has raised many questions about coaching boundaries, player safety, but also whether frustration can ever justify physical conduct directed towards a player, even if it was an accident, though. So, Nick, was firing Adam Brubaker the only reasonable outcome once video of the incident did, in fact, become public this past weekend?
I have a problem with this story slightly because you and I watched the video many times, and he's not intentionally going up to the student athlete and saying, "You're an idiot, and I kick you with a football." Would you admit that it was not on purpose?
Not at all.
So if it wasn't on purpose, what is the action for being fired here? Do we have an exact quote for why he was fired?
I could try and pull one up, though, but while I do that, go ahead and continue on.
So we see frustration all the time, whether it's from coaches, whether it's from athletes, whether we see this all the time. Am I saying his actions were appropriate? No, they were not appropriate. But if you look at the video, he's not aiming at the player. I think that was a right place, wrong time situation that the kid happened to be standing there. The coach kicked the football in frustration and it happened to hit a kid.
They're saying charges of battery if in fact it goes to a court. By the way, I did find the video. Let's go pull it up and we can examine this for ourselves though, but go on.
I think this is a mistake. I don't think he was doing it on purpose. Do you think that he was doing this on purpose? I certainly don't think so.
No way, no how. But let's go and take a look at this video, though, and let's see what we got here real quick, courtesy of the California Post on Twitter. There is no sound on the video. So here's the play, though, as we said, though. This is a non-contact portion of the practice. So tackle gets made by a player, knocks down the running back who is in obvious pain, though. And then you'll see Brubaker come in here from the right side of your screen.
Irate.
That is not Coach Brubaker. So eventually he's going to come in here. Okay, there we go.
It was irate.
And then there's the kick of the ball and hitting the player right in the crotch. The problem, though, I have, though, Nick, is watch what happens, though, is that as soon as they stop, he looks at the player, though, and then walks away and doesn't even go to check up on him. That's the only thing I have wrong with this whole entire situation.
I agree with you. Okay, you can take that down. I agree with you. If he went and checked on the player, it would have been fine. But again, we're missing the plot. Was he doing this on purpose? The answer is no. So the school is basically saying to you that no one makes mistakes in life. Right?
Pretty much.
We all make mistakes in life. We've all made many mistakes in our lives. No one is perfect. I can't meet one person who's ever been perfect in their entire life. And you're going to tell me because he made a small error in judgment that you're going to cost him his job and say, screw you, you can't do this job anymore.
You know what makes the situation even worse, though, Nick? Coach Brubaker even went to the school principal's office and the district saying, hey, this happened. Here's the video. I take responsibility. And they still fired his ass.
And that's where I have a problem further. If he didn't take responsibility and just like swept it under the rug and said, let's continue the practice, then he deserved to be fired. But he took responsibility. He told the school that, sorry,
what I read from KTLA, he reported it like right away after the practice had concluded. I think they may have said once that play happened, we're done here. You know, we're done for the day. And I think he went and I think he saw the video or whatever, and then he went right promptly, did the proper measures as you're supposed to do to report something going wrong. They still fired him. It's bogus.
The problem is, and you and I have talked about this before in college sports or even youth sports, that everything is so like under a microscope now that even if you didn't do something that was heinous, they're now firing people left and right because they're so worried about the reputation that it could potentially cause.
Speaking of high school football, Nick, there is a breaking story by Dana Becker, who writes for the SI High School site.
I've heard of the platform, yeah.
This involves, though, Nick, a high school program in Arizona has had their football program, JV and varsity, suspended until further notice, while the school district now and local law enforcement are investigating what the superintendent described as a potentially serious incident involving faculty members and members of the school's football program, per an announcement made on Wednesday by the Saddle Mountain Unified School District. Tonopah Valley High School has canceled their games coming up on Friday, while both programs have been suspended until further notice. The Phoenix is the name of the nickname for the school. The Phoenix were supposed to play Odyssey Institution this past Friday, August 21st, with a planned contest against the defending Class 2A Arizona High School football state champions Scottsdale Christian Academy on Friday, also canceled. In part, that this story reads, in part from Adam Beadle, who says, full release from the Saddle Mountain USD Superintendent Dr. Mike Winters, stating that Tonopah Valley has suspended its season until further notice, saying in part that last Friday, the district received a report concerning a potentially serious incident, God dang it, involving faculty members and members of the high school's football team. Given the seriousness of the allegations, I immediately canceled Friday's varsity game and initiated a thorough investigation to ensure all facts were carefully reviewed, with the JV game also canceled earlier today. Over the weekend, we consulted with the governing board and continued gathering more information regarding the matter. As a result, certain faculty members have been placed on admin leave pending further investigation. The district also initiated contact with local law enforcement groups and is cooperating fully with their investigation. So, Nick, this sounds very, very serious if they're canceling a whole season right now because of players versus faculty, it sounds like.
Wait, but do we know what the actual incident is or no?
Trying to see what we have here.
Because you said that they don't have the full report right now currently, so we don't know.
Ramon Robertson was tabbed as the new head coach for the Phoenix back in March of this year. On the day of the first scheduled game with Odyssey Institute, Robertson shared a post on social media of the planned game. The statement, though, did not identify Robertson or any other coach, faculty member, or player in connection with the ongoing investigation.
I think we're going to have to wait for more information. We don't really know what to...
Oof. I mean, either way, though, you know what that probably does tell me, though?
Sounds like something illegal happened.
Sounds like hazing.
I don't know. I don't want to assume anything yet because I don't know. Or we don't have information. But if they had to cancel a full season, it means some type of illegal activity probably happened.
Oh, hang on. There's one more here. Nick, this story broke yesterday, and this has been very alarming in the world of hockey. Arizona State University is now under a microscope in reviewing the circumstances around a hockey team outdoor workout this past week, which saw Blues prospect Matthew Mayich collapse and potentially suffer a cardiac event per the Arizona Republic, which first reported the player's identity and potential medical condition. ASU has said in a statement that it cannot provide additional information due to privacy laws right now, but Matthew is currently still right now in a hospital, or has been there for 6 days after he collapsed during an outdoor workout last Thursday, per multiple sources. The Blues, who picked him in the 6th round of the 2023 draft, said the organization is being updated through his agent about the defenseman's condition, and that Mayich never signed his ELC with the team, and that's why he is back at ASU. In short, the Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Department was dispatched to the school's track and field facility at around 8:30 a.m. local time to a heat-related incident. Temperatures had already reached 90 degrees during the morning, with a high afternoon temperature reaching 104 per the National Weather Service. Nick, I do not like hearing these stories at hand, though, because especially out here where I live right now, Nick, I should mention at the top of the show, we have been in a 2-week-long heat wave out here in SoCal. I have to get up and walk Ozzy. My dog is in my lap. We're up and out the door by 7 a.m. because it is just too damn hot in the middle of the day to take him outside for a walk right now. And obviously, Nick, heat has also been a very big thing, though, this time of the year in this part of the country. I know you know very well about how it is back in New York, though, or back on the East Coast, though. But this has been a very insane weather pattern out here that we've had, though. We're our air conditioner's on 24/7. I mean, we're talking 95 degrees by the time it's already 10 a.m. out here, which never happens out here in SoCal. And, of course, Arizona is a different animal.
And I've been to Arizona. It's hot. It was 105 degrees when I went. I ended up with a nosebleed. That's how...
I've been to Arizona, and it's still 115 at 10 o'clock at night.
Now, I was fortunate because I went to go see the D-backs. The one
Same.
night we went to go see the game, 75 degrees.
Gotta love it, right?
The one night that we were sitting... Now, they can close the stadium if they wanted to, if they did.
And the fire situation has not helped either. I've been actually concerned about that because, as people may know, Nick knows very well, though, whenever the weather gets bad out here, it strains the state power grid out here, which can lead to losing power. And of course, the fire situation, which has been just out of control up in Northern California and especially in Reno, Nevada, which has just been on fire for the last several days and whatnot. And this happens all the time around here. So I get more concerned, though, Nick, when the weather does get bad like this, because that might mean we lose power here because of the strain on the grid here across the state of California.
And I got another one for you, too. It's a triple effect. We got an update on College Game Day. Lead College Game Day producer Jim Garrio is taken off the show.
ESPN layoffs again?
One of the lead producers of ESPN's flagship college football program, College Game Day, has been taken off the show. Jim Garrio, a veteran ESPN producer who has served as the lead producer on College Game Day for many years, will no longer produce the show. Multiple sources confirming to Awful announcing many involved with Game Day were informed of the news earlier this month. It is not immediately clear why Garrio is out at Game Day. Garrio has been with ESPN over 30 years, joining the network in 1995. In addition to his Game Day role, Garrio produces college football and basketball games for ESPN, along with the NBA draft and PGA championship coverage. Previously, Garrio was a lead producer on ESPN's NASCAR coverage until the network lost the rights in 2014. Game Day has undergone shifting in its production ranks in recent years. 3 years ago, obviously cutting ties with longtime production executive Lee Fitting, who oversaw College Game Day as well as Monday Night Football. Fitting was replaced by Amanda Gifford. If you know that name, she's been in charge of a lot of programs. Hold on. Who now oversees ESPN's college football production. The move comes at a time of change on air for Game Day as well. Last year marked the first season without Lee Corso, who retired after week 1. Meanwhile, Pat McAfee and Nick Saban have settled into starring roles on the show alongside Reese Davis and Desmond Howard and Kerr Herbstreit. College Game Day will be back on September 5th. Awful announcing reached out to ESPN and has yet to hear back. Yeah.
We'll stay in college football, Nick. From Awful Announcing's Drew Lerner, TCU has rescinded media credentials.
For what?
For the Fort Worth Star-Telegram after a dispute over the paper's reporting on a locker room incident that led to the dismissal of senior safety Jacob Fields from the Horned Frogs football program.
Really? We're going to start this BS again?
The Star-Telegram revealed the school's decision in its own reporting done on Wednesday. In part, the Star-Telegram said via a phone conversation with on Sunday, a TCU spokesperson said that the Star-Telegram's credentials were being pulled because the coverage resulted in threats towards the victim, the paper reported. The Star-Telegram did not identify the player, junior wide receiver Doze Ikanama, until 3 days after the initial report, when he identified himself in a now-deleted video on Instagram. Fields was dismissed by the Horned Frogs on August 18th for what the school described as a violation of team rules. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram then subsequently reported that evening that the dismissal came after a physical confrontation in the team locker room for the prior week. The paper's initial report cited a source close to Fields that said he felt targeted by teammates with insults and also threats, which ultimately led to the altercation. The source added that the TCU coaching staff made no attempts to de-escalate the brewing tension between the two men. 3 days later, the Star-Telegram filed another report with a news source that clarified Fields' actions came from tensions brewing from competitive football and some questionable plays in a practice, rather than perhaps bullying a teammate. After the follow-up report, though, Izu Kanama posted his now-deleted IG video that included his versions of the event. He then claimed that Fields hit him from behind, and another person in the video said the hit caused him to fall unconscious. And then he said, "How you going, sucker punch me, bro? That's your teammate," he said in the video, per the Star-Telegram. And a statement that was put up by the Telegram on Tuesday, TCU has now blamed the paper for endangering the well-being of its student athletes, which the school says justifies revoking the paper's credentials. TCU Athletic Director Mike Buddy said in a statement on Tuesday that our main focus is the health and safety of our student athletes. And unfortunately, a unnamed source without firsthand knowledge of the incident provided inaccurate information cited in the initial reporting by the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, which we strongly dispute. The inclusion of the misinformation advanced a narrative that endangered a student athlete and resulted in threats to him and his family. These actions led take a decision to withhold the media credential until additional conversation can be held between athletics and the sports reporting team at the Telegram. We remain dedicated to restoring our student to health, as well as focusing on the game that is ahead in Dublin, Ireland. Real quick, though, before we do, in fact, move on here, Nate, that the Star Telegram also is the only publication with a dedicated full-time staff covering TCU football, the paper says. Stephen Johnson was set to travel to Dublin for the team's opener versus UNC on Saturday, but with the credential now being revoked, TCU as the home team has the right to determine who is credentialed for the game over at Guinness Stadium. Sheham Jaraja, the president of the Football Writers Association of America, or the FWAA, came in defense of the Telegram on Wednesday, demanding that Johnson's credential be reinstated. So we're going to start this bullshit over again here, Nick, with censoring the media because of what they heard or what they wrote.
Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable.
So you don't, and again, this is going to go to every time we address this situation with the media. The media has a job to do. Okay? You can clearly tell they have sources based off of these IG videos, right?
Yes.
So because you don't like the way your team is being covered, you're going to remove their source because you don't like that they're doing their job telling the truth. Is that what we're doing here?
Yep.
How many times do these teams, any team that you cover across sports, has to realize that the media is doing their job when they're reporting from inside the locker room?
Yeah, no kidding. Exactly.
So because you don't like the fact that they reported actual facts, you're now removing their credential because, again, the media didn't follow your narrative. Is that what we're doing?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. And, you know, I already lived through this again as well, Nick, as you probably know, about USD football having some locker room issues a few years ago with hazing and bullying and, you know, a bad culture being set, which led to the AD resigning and a media freeze out of the paper and the news. So, again, I've sat through that before and whatnot, and, you know, the program is back in good standards. So, and they've had, 2 great years since then. Yeah, that's when lost behavior. But I don't appreciate, Nick, that when you have people like us doing a job to cover a team or cover something, you have to let them do their job, whether you like what they say or not. It's their job to, the freedom of press is to keep, the people informed out there and have checks and balances put in place for a reason.
I mean, reading the line, I'm trying to find it again. Oh, in a phone conversation Sunday, a TCU athletics spokesman said the Star Telegram's credentials were being pulled because the coverage resulted in threats to the victim. Threats to the victim?
Now, what are we doing here, man?
The Telegram did not identify the player, junior wide receiver, Doze Uziganama, until 3 days after the initial report. Maybe because you don't want to put people's identities out there.
Something.
And it says when he identified himself in a now deleted Instagram. Okay, let's get something very clear for Mr. The anonymous TCU athletics spokesman. Just because a video is deleted didn't mean it didn't happen.
Exactly. It happened.
What do I say this all the time to people? When you put something out on social media, what does that mean?
There. People can screen record it, they can save it, they can download it, they can screen grab it, you name it. You're setting yourself up for failure.
It just means that it's always there. You could delete it, but it could always be found.
Of course.
When it's on the internet, it's there forever. Okay? So for the anonymous TCU spokesman who claims they pulled it because of threats to the victim, no, moron. Your players are dumb enough to put stuff on video in the locker room, and the news, the paper that covers your team caught it. That's not a news story?
In my book, that is a story that you have a bad culture being set in the locker room involving fistfights with teammates. And don't give me that sob story about, oh, it's, this is, just typical football behavior, because guys want to, they're competitive. No, you save that for the NFL joint practices that are a sham out there, where you got Scott Steiner's son suplexing guys on the Dallas Cowboys, or you've got full-fledged fistfights like this is a damn hockey game. Don't give me like it's the bravado of this being football culture. That's not what we're doing here in college athletics, people. Come on now.
I just find this ridiculous. And also, you got to be careful that you don't cross over into a situation with the media where you have a situation where you're not letting them cover the news.
I mean, more importantly, you revoke the credential, Nick, when the team is heading to Ireland. You're 3 days away from the
Yes.
game being played over in Dublin.
Saturday. Yeah.
if you're going to revoke credentials, you have to do that way before the week leading up to the game.
How do you know the trip wasn't prepared?
Yeah, and I'm sure it was already prepared. What if he was already over in Dublin, for example?
I don't know if he would have been in Dublin yet, even though 3 days would be justified to travel for it.
Yeah, travel, sightsee, get adjusted to the time zone.
Yeah, before I finish that statement, quick program alert. About 2 or 3 minutes from now, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to head into our interview with Jimmy Traina. But just to finish the point, that you got to be careful that the reason you're revoking a credential, they were doing their job reporting what was going on in the locker room. If they have credential access into the locker room, then they were doing their job. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that they weren't doing their job.
And Nick, more importantly, in marketplaces like Fort Worth, there's not a lot that you have there for sports-wise. And people in those marketplaces, Nick, like TCU, Nebraska, they're the only show in town. They, that is like about as high for pro sports as they'll get to is top flight college athletics. The general population deserves to hear what's going on, good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent. If it's like any other sports franchise out there, just because you don't have a pro team does not mean that it should not be treated the same exact way.
And that's the problem. If you don't like the media, tough. You want coverage for your team, this is how it has to be done. And by the way, go blame your own athletes in the locker room if you don't like the way they're acting. Don't take it out on the media. And by the way, I don't know if you read it in the report. Did those kids get thrown off the team for having a fight?
One of them got released from the program for violating team rules.
Okay, so they were doing their job. They reported that one of the student athletes got thrown off the team for violating team rules.
Precisely.
And they used the video as a source. Oh, it's deleted. It's you can't use. No. You can't do that.
It's not how it works, people.
If your student athletes are dumb enough to post a video on Instagram, it's fair game for the news to use. All right. Coming up next, it's the main event of this show. If you want to pop that up really quick, just so people can see what's coming up here. Jimmy Traina from _ Media joins the show. We talk about Sports Illustrated. He was there for over 20 years. The new venture with _ Media. What else did we talk about briefly? Just to give everybody
kind of his background, and now segueing from writing now to podcast content, from audio now to video, and of course his work with Sal Licata.
So you're going to hear a ton of that stuff. Great interview. I love Jimmy. I've spoken to Jimmy multiple times on some other podcasts I've done. We also talked about how you don't last at one location for 20 years. That's not a thing anymore. But all right, you can pop that down. We are going to head off into a quick break. And at the top of the hour, you will hear the interview with Jimmy Traina. We will come back and wrap up the show. We'll get to Enes, Kanter, and if I could speak, Natasha Cloud, and that whole incident to wrap up the show. But until then, we will see you after the interview.
All right, everybody, welcome back inside of Press Row on the last Wednesday of August as we soldier on here after a lengthy part of the show. And of course, Nick, the never-ending tides of change across the sports media world continue. And Nick, I think we found somebody who just went through kind of seeing those tides change, though, in the form of one Jimmy Traina.
Yeah, so before we get to it, big fan of his work, listen to his podcast. I actually am a loyal listener. I listened weekly, all the time, weekly on the audio, on the video. And he's one of the guys we source for a lot of our media. So
All the time.
Let's bring him in. Jimmy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So a long time at Sports Illustrated. It's 26 years, right? Or roughly 26 years?
I started in 2000. I left in the middle of that for 3 or 4 years and was back in 2017. Yeah. So I think it was 22 years total that I worked for Sports Illustrated.
So talk about your time at SI, because again, we don't see a lot of people last at jobs for 20 plus years. That's really not the future of the industry anymore. So talk about the time at SI.
Well, it was when I started in 2000, my job was an editorial assistant. My first job was basically typing magazine stories into the website. And it was sort of like a work your way up type of deal. And in 2007, after being there for 7 years, that's when I came up with the column for Hot Clicks. My boss at the time had wanted a sort of a daily go-to piece for people to go to, morning, afternoon, lunchtime, whatever it was. I came up with that idea. They greenlit it, and got very lucky in that it took off and became very popular. And did that till 2013. Came back in 2017. Wrote the new column Train of Thoughts, which is basically like Hot Clicks, but I focused way more on covering sports media. And then in 2018, I took over the sports media podcast from Deitch. And that the podcast sort of changed a lot in 2020 when COVID came, because then we went to video. So that's sort of the evolution of everything.
Jimmy, to bank off Nick's point, though, is that, not a lot of people stay in this industry or inside of one space 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Just for perspective, I work in the American Hockey League, and I'm starting my 11th season, here in San Diego for the Anaheim Ducks affiliate. And not a lot of people, I think, get to live through those milestone years, 10, 15, 20 years. And obviously what you built at SI, though. Jimmy, what probably, though, is probably the most challenging part, though, of closing a chapter like that, not just for yourself, though, but I think for anybody out there who walks away from a job, though, after that much time, though, being spent, though, in one place?
Well, listen, the brand name of Sports Illustrated carries a lot of weight in the sports world. So not being attached to that, obviously, if I started there in 2000, we're in 2026, I'm going to be associated with Sports Illustrated. There's just no two ways about it. And the brand carries a lot of weight in the sports world. So removing myself from that was the biggest challenge by far.
So I want to go back to Hot Clicks because you brought that up. I went back and I looked at it and I said, that's a fascinating article at the time when writing was relevant. Now it's really kind of on the decline, the writing side. And I thought I heard you, because I heard you on the last episode, it was under the Extra Mustard branding. Is that where that was taken
Yeah.
from?
So the way, again, this is all old school stuff that people today probably don't even understand, but the way websites used to work, or they still work that way. If you go to like ESPN.com or whatever, is there's sections. There's an NFL section. There's an MLB section. There's an NBA section. And we had a section called Extra Mustard, which was supposed to be the lighter side of sports and the mix of sports and pop culture. So that was what so Hot Clicks fell under that banner because it wasn't, a hardcore sports column. It was everything but.
And also, this was way before social media. I hear you talk about this all the time, not dealing with all the Twitters. And you were taking emails to do that column, essentially, right?
I would get like 100 to 200 emails a day of people submitting links and posts that they wanted me to feature. And also just emails to, be used in the column, because that was the way to communicate with people. There was no Twitter. back when it started in 2007. I mean, maybe there was, but I know 2007 is when I started the column. I think I joined Twitter in 2009. So it was around for those last couple of years. But one of the reasons I had left is because I thought Twitter had really hurt the value of the column, because people would come to that column to get news, which is frightening in some sort of way. But once Twitter came along, you didn't need to go to websites to get your news. So Twitter took a chunk out of it. But yeah, so that's sort of how that worked with the emails.
Jimmy, how about recently that you've talked about the immense daily pressure of waking up to a blank page to write a sports media column for 5 days a week when there probably isn't necessarily breaking media news every single day? Now you made the shift, though, maybe to the podcast side, though. But how did that daily grind, though, maybe affect your creative process compared to now doing a weekly podcast as opposed to writing the column?
Well, yeah, because I became sort of known for covering sports media, I sort of, the thought process was to have the lead item be something about sports media. And, and we're playing sort of this SEO headline Google search game, and that game is over. So, you would look for a topic that people would click on, but to do that 5 days a week, just in sports media, it didn't really sort of make sense anymore. There just isn't sports media news, big news, 5 days a week. I mean, I didn't want to just post like a press release that said, Bob Wischusen is calling this game on Saturday. Like I wanted it to be, and I don't, things would come up. You have an opinion, but I don't have an opinion every single day on a sports media topic. So I'd say it's probably been like 3 years where the daily writing just felt like didn't make a ton of sense for me anymore.
So just going back in the timeline, was it always sports media? Were you looking to cover other sports when you came up into SI? What was the timeline?
When I did Hot Clicks, it wasn't sports media. It was supposed to be, it was pop culture, lighter side of sports. But I did a ton of sports media coverage in that because I'm into that. So in the Hot Clicks era, that wasn't the main focus, but it was a big focus of the column. And then when I came back in 2017, I still was doing that kind of thing. It was when Richard Deitch left Sports Illustrated for The Athletic in 2018, where the powers that be came to me and they said they wanted me to focus on sports media. So that began in 2018, where the focus was sports media, and I would try to lead the column every day with sports media.
Now, I just want to follow up. Is that a different type of coverage, like just focusing on the sports media as opposed to like following players, following athletes? Was that a different grind in a sense?
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I was doing Hot Clicks and when I started the Train of Thoughts column before I did sports media, I would often lead the column with something that was just fun or fun. Someone does a bad national anthem. Someone has a terrible first pitch. But again, that doesn't work for a column anymore because that's all on Twitter. So it was challenging to come up with sort of opinions and takes 5 days a week. If I wanted to have a take, on the New York Yankees, Sports Illustrated would let me, but that wasn't my lane. So, I mean, I would do it once in a while, maybe. But 5 days a week on sports media to have a take is difficult.
And I guess, Jimmy, to follow up on that part of the story, though, is, looking now, Nick and I do this every Wednesday on our show about how we look at media consumption, shifting away from what you mentioned, search engines and SEO, and now shifting towards, short form video content, YouTube content, or podcast content. How have you seen this business model, though, change, especially maybe while you were at the back nine, though, at SI over the last several years?
Well, obviously, YouTube became huge. It seems like the entire business is about YouTube. And then I was sort of always, and this is what I mean about maybe I made this decision a little late, is I was sort of one of those people who always just thought it was 12 to 35-year-olds who scroll all day long on their phone on whatever platform. And I would say in the last year, especially, maybe 2 years, but year especially, my eyes sort of opened to the fact that is not a smart way of thinking. because all my friends are in their late 40s, early 50s, and every single one of them scrolls all day. My dad's 83. I go see him. He's scrolling on Facebook Reels. My uncles are in their 70s. They're scrolling on Instagram Reels. So that mentality that it's just younger people was not true. It's everybody now. Everybody. So part of the reason for my move is because I'm trying to appeal to that. We didn't do a ton of with the video clips at SI. So I see that's where the business is going. I'm trying to adapt and get on that sort of bandwagon.
I will tell you, once you started doing the video aspect, I watched every week. I was a religious watcher of the show because I think the video aspect brought a little bit more out, like when you had the guests on and
Right.
The train of thought segment, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But your guest list was incredible. Can you kind of just talk about that process, how you determine a guest? And I guess it's based, like I've heard you say, on seasonality, depending on sport. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious how you figure out that process.
Yeah, well, listen, I try to make it newsy and topical based on what's going on. So obviously, you have the NFL season coming up. The first week of the NFL season, you want an NFL guest. Baseball playoffs start, you want a baseball guest. What I would try to do is I would try to sort of have 3 guests who are sort of in the broadcasting world. And then once a month, I would do like the sports media episode with either Richard Deitch or Andrew Marchand or Brian Curtis or John Oran, because people love those episodes. And I would always try to get people who I haven't had on before. That was important to me. But the other thing is too, you have weeks where you just want to talk to one of your regulars and have someone and have an easy conversation with someone. There are weeks where it's impossible to book, so you go to your go-tos. But the main thing was to try to be topical. I towards sort of my end of my run there with Sports Illustrated, I had on the Golics because they had started a new show with ESPN. So I had them on the week before they debuted a new show. I had Tony Reale on when he had started a new show. So you try to be as newsy as possible with the guests.
Good way to look at it. With that in mind, though, I guess, Jimmy, when podcasting really, I think, began to explode in the media landscape, was audio broadcasting something you probably had actively sought out, or did you initially view yourself strictly as a digital writer first, then podcast host second?
No, because even during those Hot Clicks days, which was 2007 to 2013, I had the Hot Clicks podcast, and there was no video; it was audio only. And we just, we named it after the column. I don't know the exact year I started. I probably started it in like 2009 or 2010. And I mean, even back then, it was crazy with the guests. I had like Vince Scully on that podcast, and it kills me because I can't find the audio anywhere because it's been deleted. But we had, John Cena came in the SI studio, into the SI office to do that podcast. So I actually had that podcast, like I said, probably around 2009, 2010, 2011. So I knew back then audio was part of this whole game.
Well, speaking of interesting guests, and I heard you talk about this on your final episode, can you talk about the Kim Kardashian story a little bit? Because I found that fascinating when you talked about it.
Well, that was not a podcast. That was a over the phone Q&A that ended up being a written Q&A on SI.com. It was not a podcast.
Okay.
She was supposed to be a guest something at WrestleMania. So I'm assuming, I don't remember, but I'm sure it's safe to assume I got her through WWE. How that came about, I don't remember. But at the time, she was dating Reggie Bush, and the show Keeping Up with the Kardashians was on E! At that time. And this was before WrestleMania, where she was going to be a guest host or something. And at that time, she was not Kim Kardashian like she is now. And I had forgotten about that interview for the most part because, like I said, it wasn't a podcast. I don't know, just interviewed her over the phone, talked about Reggie Bush, she didn't know what she was doing at WrestleMania. So when I asked her, what are you doing at WrestleMania? She's like, I don't even know. The wrestling community online got up in arms, like, what a disgrace. She's going to be there, doesn't even know what she's doing. I remember that being some of the fallout. But yeah, that was a interesting one for sure.
I bet it was, especially when she's like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm going out with Reggie Bush. And then obviously, you know, the vultures that is the WWE community obviously come out in full force. Jimmy Traina joining us here from Underscore Media on Press Row. Jimmy, as you also look back, though, more about covering sports media for SI, when you first began to analyze maybe an NFL broadcast booth or a TV right deal or even network talent, did you at all ever face any blowback or pushback from the very media personalities and executives that you were perhaps covering when you first broke in?
It's happened occasionally. You know, it's usually the PR person that'll come to you to say, hey, you know, this is wrong, or, you know, you were harsh here. I would say this. I don't want to make it like it's a thing. It was very irregular. I mean, maybe it would happen twice a year. I mean, I've heard from maybe 2 or 3 broadcasters tops. 2 definitely, maybe 3 broadcasters over the years who had some problem with something. In terms of PR people, like I said, maybe once or twice a year they would come to me about something they didn't like.
That's interesting because, like, I've heard you talk about PR, and like ESPN is the one I hear you joking about all the time.
Well, they're actually great. ESPN PR is great. They're great. I mean, have they ever come to me with, you know, oh, you know, we think this is unfair? Yes, but they've always been fair, professional. I have no issues with anything related to ESPN PR.
Got it. So the train of thought segment, I want to talk about that too. That one
Sure.
I love, and that's how I got to know Sal and everything that was going on. I know he's at WFAN, also being Long Island too, so I listen to WFAN a lot. What was the idea behind the train of thoughts segment? Was that a article you were doing or a segment?
Well, that's what we called so after I did Hot Clicks and left and came back, the second column was called Train of Thoughts. And I'm terrible with naming things. So when they came, person who was in charge of podcasts at the time at SI came to me and said they wanted a sort of a segment on the podcast that was similar to the column, where I just ramble and give my thoughts like I do in the column. So I was like, all right, well, let's just call it Train of Thoughts. Why would we call it something different? And he wanted me to do it with someone. I think the initial idea was they wanted me to do it with someone in-house at Sports Illustrated. And I said, I want to do it with someone I know so we can have some banter. You know, because if you work with someone, there's still a line there you can't really cross. But if it's your friend, you can bust his chops and, you know, I think have way better banter and chemistry. So Sal obviously was in the radio business, which made it perfect. We didn't need someone who never did audio before, and we have to tell them, you know, get on the mic and, you know, you got to say this and don't give one way. I didn't have to do anything. It was a natural fit because Sal's great on the radio. So that's how that came about.
And you guys are now like personal friends, like you hang out.
Well, we were personal friends before that. That's
okay.
why I wanted to do it with him. We were personal friends long before that.
Got it. So I guess now let's kind of transition now into the new project, Underscore Media. Now you're part of the launch project for this, right? You're not just going over there, like you're helping with the different stuff.
Well, no, I mean, I'm here as talent who's going to do a podcast and a newsletter. We're officially launching on September 8th. Sal's a part of it, so Sal will have shows. John Jastrzemski's a part of it. He'll have shows. There'll be some newsletters. We're going to just, you know, do some things maybe with live events, watch-alongs, stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm part of the launch, but it's my content that's basically part of the launch.
Got it. So this is a new element for you. Like you're able to have more freedom in this space. I read you're going to do more video stuff, more podcasts. What are you going to do? 2 to 3 podcasts now a week? Is that the plan?
Well, like you mentioned the segment with Sal, the Train of Thought segment. That SI was not putting that on YouTube. That will be on YouTube now every week. So you said you like to watch on YouTube, so that'll be good for you. I could tell you that we're launching September 8th, but I couldn't wait anymore. So we taped an episode today and we're going to release it on Wednesday. So if you check YouTube or the Apple link, you'll see me and Sal there tomorrow on Wednesday. A little surprise episode for people. So it'll be 3 pods a week, but it's really the one pod that I did where I do the interviews with the Joe Bucks and the Troy Aikmans and Jim Nance. That'll be an episode We'll have the second episode will be the train of thought segment with Sal. We're not changing anything, as everyone will see this week. And there'll be a third sort of wild card episode, which will probably be mainly me talking about sports media news of the week. Maybe I'll have a guest who maybe doesn't fit into the sports media criteria. And that's, how we're going to do it.
Again, folks, Jimmy Traina joining us here today on Press Row from Underscore Media. Jimmy, I'm actually glad that Nick brought that up, though, about, or that you had brought up some of the guests you've had, though. Charles Barkley comes to mind, Jim Nantz. And over the years, though, you've interviewed some of these big names in sports media or broadcasting. What would you say is probably your blueprint for getting a high-profile, guarded media figure to maybe in a way like unbutton the shirt a little bit, open up and actually speak candidly about their life, their career across maybe playing sports, but also being in the media space?
Listen, it's not easy because I've always said this. When I have someone on for the first time, there's at least like a 20-minute feeling out process. I feel like no one gets comfortable until maybe after 20 minutes when they're on for the first time. I try to do a ton of research, and I try to find something usually non-sports related to discuss with them. It's interesting because I do think my experience has been, I think a lot of those guests came on that podcast, and because it was a Sports Illustrated podcast, they expected a very straight, serious, no nonsense, highbrow podcast. But if I have JJ Watt on, I'm going to ask him about food because he tweets about food a lot. If, Joe Buck came on once and told a story about Troy Aikman hates anyone being late. So when I had Troy on, I played that clip of Joe talking about that. So to sort of make them loosen up, I try to go into a non-sports area, whether it's movies or music or anything like that. That's usually, but you have to do a lot of research to find out where they'll be comfortable.
So the one thing I forgot to ask about the podcast, your whole thing is about conversational. Like it's not an A to B situation. Yeah. Was that a mindset when you took over the SI Media podcast to just be conversational rather than just saying, I'm going to ask a question, you're going to answer, and we're just going to go back and forth?
Yeah, that was always my mindset from day one. I never wanted to do question, answer. I always wanted it to be a conversation because I do think when you have a conversation, that'll lead you into areas that maybe you don't expect someone to go into. So I think, listen, I grew up a diehard Howard Stern person. So if you listen to his interviews, they're usually conversational. I grew up Mike and the Mad Dog. So their interviews always were different. They weren't afraid to ask questions. They got right to the point. So I probably had that instilled in me, but also I loved Letterman. And I always felt like those are just conversations more than question answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's approach is different when you bring guests on. I like that you said, though, it may take 20 minutes or so to get people to maybe loosen up a little bit, and maybe they're a little uptight about things. So I definitely concur with that mindset.
We're also talking about sports and sports media. It's not that important.
Yeah, I mean that is very much true.
Yeah.
Jimmy, wanting to kind of in a way talk about Sal again. You and Sal have had some great natural chemistry and banter over the years. How though did that dynamic develop over the years and time, and why do you think though that your back and forth resonated though so strongly with listeners and maybe those that are now viewing your content nowadays?
Literally just what we talked about. It's a conversation. We don't plan that segment. We don't discuss the topics ahead of time. I do very little prep for that segment. I will, if I see a movie trailer, I'll jot a little note. If I watch something, I'll take a little note. If I see something in a game, I'll just take a little note. But I don't tell Sal what's coming. And I usually give Sal a chance. I'll say, you got anything from me? He'll say, oh, I wanted to talk to you about this. We don't talk about it ahead of time, and we just have that conversation that you're hearing is our first time discussing those things. So just like we talked about, conversational, just two friends chatting, restaurants, people really respond to the restaurants, the food, Sal's life with his wife and kid. And it's not planned in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I have 5 or 6 topics that I want to hit. But other than that, not planned.
I mean, his TV watching habits make me laugh every week.
How about him going to the movies at 8:00 in the morning? What a nut!
That made me
See
laugh
Odyssey. Yeah.
too. I guess the final thing for me, I know you went through a podcast feed change because SI didn't give you the feed. I'm just curious your opinion. Like we saw Russillo go through this with Spotify when he went to Barstool, didn't get his feed.
Well, I thought he did get the feed. I could have sworn Russillo got his feed from the Ringer.
Oh, did he? I thought Spotify blocked him.
I could be wrong, but I thought. But you go ahead.
But I guess, is that a frustration thing? I don't know if you really want to comment on that, but like, is like having to start over on a new feed, is that tough?
Oh, you're right. I'm wrong. My bad. Ryan Russillo did not keep his feed. I thought he did, which is interesting because Barstool gives people their feed. Obviously, Alex Cooper is the most famous example of that. Yeah, it was frustrating from the standpoint of I was there for 20 plus years, and I don't know, they could say they sort of have a plan for the feed, but I don't know what they would do with that feed that would make sense. So, a nice goodwill gesture. Listen, legally, technically, contractually, they did not have to give me the feed. They were in every right not to give me the feed. If they gave me the feed, it would have simply have been a goodwill gesture. And I thought I should have gotten that.
Got it. Well, Jimmy, thanks for being on. We appreciate it. Looking forward to
having me.
And I'm gonna watch because like I told you, I'm a watcher every week. I look forward to you. I look forward to you and Sal. So
I appreciate that. It's all on YouTube for you now. So
and I'm looking forward to it. All right. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy, very much.
You got it. Thanks.
All right, gang, welcome back to Press Row. Fresh off the conversation with our good man, Jimmy Traina from _ Media. Nick, it felt like it kind of flew by, though, but Jimmy gave a lot of great insight, though, about making that pivot, though, from the 20-plus years at SI to now here we are, going from the written content now to the new digital medium that we're in now here in 2026. What a guy. Great stuff.
Yeah, I love Jimmy. I think he's great. He covers this media industry better than anybody else, and we've been fortunate over how long have we been doing this show together now?
Over a year.
We've had a lot of great media guests on this show. Well, we had McCarthy, what was it, a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Michael McCarthy from FOS. Now that we've had Jimmy, we've had a lot of great guests. The best of the end of this year is going to be
loaded,
incredible. But he said a lot of interesting things. I will give you a full disclosure. I almost was not going to ask that feed question at the end because I didn't know how he would interpret.
Right.
Because you don't want to burn relationship with somebody after 20 plus years of being at SI. But that felt kind of cool, though, being told to be correct on the Russillo Spotify thing, by the way. But that is a weird thing. I'm curious your thoughts on that. When you see companies, when you see people work at, and we never had this issue because everyone worked in TV and radio. There was no such thing as taking a feed in that situation, or let alone taking a name of your show if you were on radio or on TV, unless it had your own name in it.
For sure.
Which they can't own.
And I would say, for example, for Callan's Cranium, if the day ever came for some ungodly reason that I left ETB, I would hope that I could, take the rights to that to, a new individual platform or whatever it might be, though. Or I think it feels petty, though, Nick, like we heard about Russillo, and as we said, though, with Jimmy, that, what do you have to gain, though, by not giving the host the rights to their audio feed when they leave to go somewhere else for a bigger, better opportunity?
You know why? Because it's, unfortunately, and I can't remember the full answer because a second ago, but I think he said it was a little petty-ish, right? That, what are you going to do with that feed? Now, unless you're going to, the goal is probably to hand the SI Media podcast to somebody else to host, but that's not fair. Jimmy was the one who really, I shouldn't say really, he did build that whole feed. Now, it started with Richard Dicage. He was the original host. of SI Media. That's a guy I've tried to get on. He's impossible to get in touch with, but I happen to like Richard too. What?
We have an exclusive story, Nick, from Ben Horney of Front Office Sports regarding Kalshi and deals with some of the Major League Baseball teams that broke on Tuesday night.
It just happened?
There are now reports, though, Nick, that Kalshi did describe deals with 5 Major League Baseball teams on Tuesday as being exclusive, but that is not exactly right, per what FOS has now learned. Though the release from Kalshi originally described all the deals as being exclusive, multi-year brand partnerships at least 2 of the deals with both the Braves and Giants have been ruled not exclusive, as 2 sources have told FOS. Those teams can enter into other prediction market partnerships like Novig or even with Polymarket if they choose. A representative for the Giants, though, confirmed to FOS on Wednesday that the deal is not exclusive. The deals with both the Dodgers and Red Sox are exclusive per the release, but also now it is also not clear if the agreement with the Padres is exclusive, though. But, Nick, I would probably say it is, though, because I have noticed, though, there's now a Kalshi ad on the right field wall, though, and also behind home plate during innings, though, at Petco. But still, Nick, give me a break. What are we doing here?
This is becoming ridiculous. I don't even know what to say at this point. But enough with Kalshi, enough with Polymarket. They're out like partnering with all YouTube channels and all these influencers and everything. It's a problem. And unfortunately, it's not going away. It's getting worse. But just to get your thoughts on the whole feed situation, like, it's a bizarro situation that you work at a company, done a podcast for years, and you can't get your own feed.
Yeah, I don't get that whatsoever.
Like, what is the... It was built up from him. So, and by the way, as soon as people find out that the feed has somebody else on it hosting the show, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's stupid.
It's like deceptive advertising a little bit. I do want to get to one story that is trending in the media space right now that we didn't have a chance to get to, and then we'll get to Enes Kanter and Natasha Cloud and all that nonsense. Can we talk about the Good Golf ad campaign?
Oh, the Callaway golf story.
Yes. So if you've been living under a rock, you've missed a lot. So there's a campaign that was out there done by Callaway, and I'm trying to find the actual story so I don't misspeak. But they put out an ad for their new golf clubs, and they're in hot water because in the ad, a woman is about to swing with a club, and a guy runs over and pushes the woman over.
Yes.
And I think I have the ad. I have it right here, so we can actually take a look at this really quick. So here's the ad.
Do not touch my new driver.
I don't get the big deal. It says a driver.
Johnny, no. No.
Johnny, no, don't do it.
John.
No.
No,
No, no, no,
please,
don't. Johnny, no. Are you okay?
It's over. He's gone.
What's happening?
So this is the Bizarro ad.
Borderline bizarre, borderline cringe, and borderline awkward, and borderline offensive, if you ask me.
So this was a partnership, I think, with a show or an account called Good Golf, and they are in hot water after their horror movie-esque ad for Callaway received backlash for a scene where founder Oh God, I didn't even know it was the founder.
Oh, what? What?
Founder Garrett Clark shoves golfer Alexis Miatowski.
Why is the founder pushing over a professional golfer in the first place?
Well, I don't know if she's a professional golfer. It just says golfer. But Callaway CEO said it was, quote, inappropriate.
I would think so.
And didn't support the values of, quote, diversity and inclusion. PGA Tour CEO said, I think that's Dunlap, I think is the PGA Tour CEO, said Good Golf Championship is now in jeopardy. Apparently they had an event coming up. And the Golf Channel postponed the premiere of their reality series called Big Break Good. What? But here's the interesting thing that the person who posted this said. As for the ad itself, I thought it was of poor taste. I don't know how they thought this would be received well. It was poor judgment, but here's the problem. Callaway approved the ad.
Why would you approve the ad if you think it's going to trigger people in this capacity is all I have to ask.
It says they gave it the go-ahead, so they should receive equal shame and blame for this.
Totally.
As for the backlash, it's an overreaction, and much of it is a virtual signaling. Callaway claiming DEI is stupid. Yeah, I agree totally. Golf Galaxy threatening to pull sponsorship for the Big Break show will blow up in a week. Yeah, I don't agree with that. This is not good. I'm just going to say that.
No, it's not.
I don't know. Why would you make an ad like that, knowing it's going to cause a stir?
Yeah, and it's not being funny either.
I mean, they should be scrutinized.
Yes, 1,000%.
By the way, the founder? Why is first of all, that's rare that you see a founder in a commercial for
why is more importantly, why is the founder in this ad and doing what he did is all I have to ask.
Good Golf has deleted and apologized for this video where a man shoved a woman. Social media users, including several high-profile golf personalities, described the ad as scary and endorsing violence against women.
Bingo.
They're right. I mean, and by the way, you want to know how bad it was? Callaway CEO issued an apology at 1 a.m.
That part I don't agree with at all whatsoever.
So it says Callaway CEO issued a 1 a.m. apology for an ad from Good Golf where the shoving happened. Chip Brewer, I don't know who that is, says the ad, which Good insists, was meant to spoof the movie Obsession.
No.
Do you know what that movie is? I don't know what. But it was approved by Callaway prior to posting. So Callaway's got to take one on the head if they approved it.
They are dead wrong 1,000,000%. And my goodness, that's despicable. I'm sorry.
So Golf Galaxy and Dick's Sporting Goods have pulled their good merchandise off of shelves.
Good.
Several PGA Tour superstores, Golf Galaxy's biggest competitor, have also pulled the brand's merchandise following backlash over its controversial Callaway ad. Front Office Sports did write a story about it. We'll quickly go through, and then we got to make our way through the rest of the stuff. Yeah, everyone's pulled the merchandise. The video does not reflect the values or our commitment to making golf welcoming for everyone. A PGA Tour Superstore spokesman said Golf Channel pulled the premiere of a new show with the YouTube group. They were going to put it on YouTube. Yeah, this is... You know how we say all the time that, like, you got to be careful what you post? Like
all the damn time.
You tell a certain somebody that maybe they should be careful what they post because it's going to come back to bite them one day. I mean, the backlash is real. That's all. That's all I can really say about this. Like,
yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up.
The ad was distasteful, Nick. We'll actually stay in golf real quick, Nick. I know we got a lot of topics still to cover here, but we only got about 20 minutes left to go here in the show. But though, Nick, the other big news, though, in golf, though, of course, and also broke this morning, the Live Golf season has come to a conclusion amid ongoing uncertainty about the league's future. The season finale came with major questions surrounding Saudi-backed financing and whether or not LIV's current structure will continue to exist or continue in its current form. The league has consistently marketed itself as an alternative to regular professional golf, emphasizing team competition, shorter events, a different presentation, and different course antics that is not usually seen in the PGA circuit. The end of the season, though, therefore creates a massive opportunity to assess whether or not LIV actually can change pro golf or simply force the PGA Tour to change in response. Nick, did LIV actually change pro golf enough to justify everything it cost the sport? How about no?
No. I mean, in my book, Live Golf is a complete failure in my book.
Major failure.
Because what was the notion that made them different from the PGA Tour? This goes back to what I said earlier about the NFL, that you shouldn't imitate the NFL because you're never going to beat it. So looking at Live Golf, what made them stand out? That they just threw millions of dollars at these golfers. The only difference is you signed an actual contract to play for Live Golf. On the PGA Tour, you go, you pay, you have sponsors that represent you, and you play. And Live Golf, you get these ridiculous contracts. You get these ridiculous events. It reminded me of the new, what was it, the Happy Gilmore movie,
Yes.
the second version, where they put all the trampolines and the robots and the rainbow colored lights, and that's what Live Golf was, though. Like,
Come on, people. This is golf, not a rock concert.
Live Golf was a spectacle. If to be truthful here,
100%.
there's nothing. And the only reason that these big name golfers like the Brooks Koepkas of the world, who eventually went back to the PGA Tour, or who am
John Rahm,
Well, who's the one I can't stand right now?
Shambo.
Bryson DeChambeau. We read a report the other night that he won't come back unless the price is right.
Wait, the price? Wait, you said the price is right? Wait, hang on a second. Where is it? Oh, yes.
Because he's a raw pain in the ass.
I mean,
well,
I hate Bryson, and I really don't care if Bryson sees this or not. I could care less. Bryson is the biggest egomaniac of all time when it comes to Live Golf. Bryson has made so much money between the PGA Tour, between Live Golf, his stupid YouTube channel. And usually I don't do this because I'm not mean and nasty like this. Do not go to his YouTube channel. Do not. He made enough money. Let him go sit in the corner like a bad child with a dunce cap on his head, and let him sit over there and sulk. You won't play unless the price is right for you. You've made hundreds of millions of dollars. Don't give me that crap, Bryson.
oh, man. All right, Nick, we're going to keep going on here. Press clippings can go away. We will just get through the rest of our stories that we
Yeah,
came
we
here
have some
for
major stories to still do.
for hour 3, Nick. We'll start off, though, here with this one, though. Seattle Times sports writer Matt Calkins resigned after 11 years with the newspaper. Matt said his decision, though, Nick, came, though, due to connections being made to the paper's decision not to publish a column he had written involving Fever guard Sophie Cunningham in the debate over transgender participation in women's sports, with Calkins arguing that the column had undergone editorial review before it was rejected by the Seattle Times. The episode has become another debate about editorial independence, newsroom standards, and also the boundaries between a columnist's personal perspective and a publication's editorial judgment. Nick, when a columnist's work, though, conflicts with a publication's editorial standards, where should the line be drawn, though, between editorial control but also
Media censorship.
Yeah, this is bad. I talked about this on ETB Sports yesterday, that it bothers me from the standpoint of where is the line? Okay, where what's allowed here? What are we trying to do from a freedom of the press, freedom of speech scenario when it comes to covering stories? I did look this up, so I do know the answer. The Seattle Times is a privately owned paper. So there is no freedom of speech scenario here, because as a private entity, just like the professional sports leagues, they control their narrative and what they want. And if you don't fit their narrative, they're going to get rid of you. Now, Matt Culkins didn't get fired. He resigned because he didn't like the fact that he was doing stories on Sophie Cunningham and talking about the transgender issues that are going on with the WNBA. And I think he spoke to 2 young girls in the transgender fight, right?
Yes.
So the paper came out and they ghosted him and didn't tell him whether they were going to run it or not. And eventually they just said, we're not running this. And eventually Matt said, look, I can't take this shit no more. I'm out. Like, I've been here for 11 years and you won't run my stories, which are actually important.
Yeah, and I remember that Matt had written here in San Diego for the Union Tribune here. Him and Stephanie Lowe both did, and they both went to Seattle. I remember Stephanie had covered the Gulls the first full year of them being back in 2015. I don't know if she's moved away from the Seattle Times. But again, Nick, this kind of goes back, though, a little bit to what we were talking about a bit at the top earlier in the show, revolving around, this news about TCU having them reject the credentials of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. That, again, what are we doing here once more again, involving, freedom of, the freedom of the press, though? I know you're a private entity, though, but this still makes no sense to be, why send a writer to cover the game or the event, though? Because, again, we know that there was, protest around every Fever game now involving, both sides of the aisle being played here, that the writer does all this work, Nick, for basically nothing now, because the work never gets put out onto the publication. And now I think that Calkins has now launched the Substack. He has. He's already been on. Has actually, believe it or not, I looked it up. He's got 4,000 Substack subscribers already. Good for him. He went from 5,000 followers on X to almost 80,000. Look, in today's industry, number one, and you've heard me say this for a long time, journalism, the real form of journalism, is dead. Yes, it's dead. And I know damn well that Zan and Tom would probably agree with you too. And I'm not looking to make the journalism industry mad at me. I'm pointing out the facts that writing has been on the decline for what? Close to 10 years? Probably? I'd say, yeah. And I would say ever since COVID hit too. Yes. So the last 6 to 10 years. So writing it's like a bad flow chart. When you look at the stock market, it's literally just going down. And unfortunately, it's not making any money. And these private entities like the Seattle Times want to control the narrative. Geez, how many times have we said control the narrative on stuff today? I mean, especially with the news about TC revoking the credentials of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram today to go cover the game in Dublin. Now, why do you think people are going to Substack? Why do you think people are going to free platforms? Why do you think they're doing that? There's no one to answer to. There's no boss. Right. Now, it's not easy. Let me be very clear about that. Because when you're not working under a platform, you're not being paid directly. You don't have a job. In theory, you have to build up an audience. Now, it's a lot easier when you had an audience. I can't remember the name of the football writer in Houston who covered the team for 40-something years for the Texans. I forget. I think you know who I'm talking about, though. He went to Substack. He had a huge following. And that made it easier for him to transition. And I'm trying to look this up because now it's bothering me. But it was... Substack is the way of the future. Would you agree? Oh, yeah. I've been on there for over a year, I think now, writing stories about my career, some moments in sports history, some stuff about San Diego sports. I wrote about the Padre ownership introduction press conference and wrote about the whole sale process and all that good stuff. And I don't have to answer to anybody. Maybe answer to Nick about a couple of things, but other than that, I have free will on that
I
platform.
don't care. And to be honest, I don't care what you write. I mean, like, we'll do things together, but otherwise, I'm not telling you what to write, and nor would I tell you what to write. That's not my right. It's your column to write. But
all right, Nick. Well, Nick, let's move on real quick here. Again, we're against the clock here with coming down the pipeline here of this episode. Nick, I love this story a lot, though. Ted Lasso is back on Apple TV Plus and has once again placed the fictional world of AFC Richmond into actual real-world soccer conversations. The show's connection to Apple TV makes its treatment of soccer media economics particularly interesting, as the MLS-Apple TV relationship remains one of the most ambitious attempts to move a major sports league to a streaming-first environment, and any joke or criticism directed towards the arrangement for a massively popular Apple TV series has the potential to reach an audience that may never read a conventional soccer business news story. Nick, does the joke from Ted Lasso poking fun at the Apple TV deal actually matter for the perception of the deal that was made? I say 1,000% yes.
I mean, I think they're just trying to prove the fact that soccer just didn't work on Apple TV at all. And I've said that for a very long time. I've probably said that for months, that it hasn't worked, and they're realizing it doesn't work because now they're trying to find their way out. They make the deal shorter because they're trying to get out of it. I mean,
Yeah, they're trying to get out of it as quickly as they can.
so people don't. It was a mistake when they had the double paywall originally just to get it. How many soccer fans do you think, if you had to put a percentage on it, said "F you" to the double paywall?
Oh, I'm sure they did. Even when Messi came to MLS, they're like, I'm not going to pay double money to watch the MLS on TV.
What would you say? 70 to 80% at least probably said no to that double paywall.
Maybe.
Yeah, one is bad enough. Like, if you really want to watch something bad, you'll pay for one paywall if you want to
But
see
not
something.
two paywalls.
But not two. Like,
And
it's
like I
better-
always, yeah, and like I always say real quick is that I don't pay for the subscription. I'll watch games on Fox or FS1, or I'll be at the match. And more importantly, there's a local radio deal here in San Diego for SDFC.
So I don't know. I mean, this is just the cherry on top to make them look bad that MLS made a bad deal.
I love it. Nick, back to the media again with the New York Times, Nick, being forced to pay out $9.25 million as a jury has awarded former Alabama basketball player Kai Spears $9.25 million after finding that the New York Times had defamed him. The Times had incorrectly named Spears being connected to a fatal shooting in 2023. The original reporting came from an unknown source. The newspaper later corrected the story and published an editor's note, but Spears still pursued a defamation of character lawsuit. The verdict is substantial, though, for journalism, though, Nick, because the case involved a major national newspaper and an error concerning a young athlete who was publicly associated with a serious crime. The Times expressed their disappointment with the verdict and indicated that further legal options may, in fact, be considered. Nick, what does a $9.25 million verdict against the New York Times, though, mean for how major sports publications verify anonymous sourced reporting?
I mean, it shows that sometimes being first is not always right. I mean,
exactly.
The guy was not even at the scene of the scene of the crime or whatever it was. And if I'm not mistaken, the New York Times said like he had a gun also.
Yeah, which was never the case.
How can you have a gun if you were never there at the incident? I mean, I guess you could have a gun, but like not at that incident.
Nope.
I mean, first of all, for the New York Times to lose this substantial this amount of money, $9.25 million in defamation. First of all, to prove defamation, you need a lot of evidence to prove that someone defamed you. Now, not being at because if I'm not mistaken, this caused him to have to move and to do what he had to do to move. He had to go to other colleges, and I don't think he ever played again at one point.
I don't think he did either, or he went overseas, one of the two.
So, I don't know, man. It's a bad look for the New York Times, who already had a struggling scenario with the Rossini story and all this stuff. The New York Times does not know how to handle lawsuit situations or investigations of their own kind. They just don't.
Nick, Carl Ravage finally called it quits after calling the Little League Classic between the Brewers and Braves on Sunday and signed off from MLB coverage for the final time after more than 33 years at the network as he joined ESPN back in 1993 and became one of the defining voices of network baseball and even college basketball coverage. His departure, of course, comes amid ongoing broader restructuring at ESPN. The final assignment, though, provided a chance for Ravage to acknowledge the people he worked with in the audience that followed his career, including very classy moves done by both Garrett Mitchell and Chris Sale. But, Nick, are sports networks still losing something valuable when they move away from broadcasters who have become so synonymous with sports over the course of the last several decades? Where do we stutter?
Yeah, I will have a problem with this for forever. Like, the man's been at ESPN for 33 years. You throw him in the garbage like he doesn't exist. The man stayed on, did a couple more MLB assignments for ESPN, did the Little League World Series, for crying out loud, when he could have said F you and I'm out of here.
And he still, I think, is going to be doing until they get to the final game on ABC in a couple of weeks.
But what does that tell you, though? That the man could have said, I was here for 33 years. I don't have to be treated like this.
For sure.
And he would have been, what's the word I'm looking for? Exonerated for it or warranted for it. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go out on top. I'm going to go out. I'm going to finish the Little League World Series, which is something that I think that he's loved for the time he's been there doing it. Baseball Tonight, another amazing show they destroyed over the years at ESPN alongside Around the Horn. It's amazing. They kill the shows that do the most ratings. It's unbelievable, right? No, let's just have 24/7 NFL programming because that makes total sense.
Exactly. Last one for the day, though, Nick. Very interesting here involving the Women's Professional Baseball League, who is so young right now, Nick, in their infancy as a startup league. But a board member for the WPBL is already demanding records. I mean, what has already been called, Nick, mounting red flags for the upstart Women's Pro Baseball League. The dispute, though, is another example of how governance issues can become sports business stories when questions arise about transparency, board oversight, and organizational decision-making, with the main issue not being the records themselves, though, but what the demand says about confidence inside the organization's leadership. Nick, when a board member publicly demands records from the organization they help govern already, how serious, though, should the problem, though, be assessed by fans and media with the underlying problems already here, Nick? And this is a very tough story, Nick. It's a tough story, Nick, because this league is only like 5 weeks old, if that.
I mean, it's not good when your league starts and you're already having issues, whether it's financial or behind the scenes or any of this stuff. They got to figure it out. But when you start a new business or you start a new venture,
yeah,
you have to work through the ups and downs to get where you need to get. Nothing comes with a silver spoon in their mouth. Well, let me think about that for a second. Maybe sometimes, but not in this situation. Anything, and I hate to say this, but like in a women's startup league, it's going to be a lot harder financially to build it. And that's no knock on any of the women's professional league. Look at the NWSL. They've really come into their own but they struggled when they got off the ground. I remember when they struggled.
Yeah,
they had to get backing.
And they're growing, though, with TV and expansion, and same with the W after 30 years of them, fighting for breadcrumbs and whatnot. And I know we kind of missed out on the Kanter Cloud story, though, but we obviously, heard that from Nick and Zan on Tuesday. I do, though, Nick, know that for women's pro baseball, Kelsey Whitmore, who was the number 1 overall pick, is from San Diego. One of my dad's youth players who played for him, Kira Izumi, is playing for the team that is playing in New York, but they're all playing in Illinois. And I've watched some of their games, man. I mean, they play 7 innings and they use aluminum bats, though. But I mean, the talent pool, though, for women's baseball, man. And I know that we all were enamored, though, by Gina Davis and Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell, though, with a league of their own, though. But it's been so cool to see this league begin, though, even with some of these issues, though, going on. Nick, before we do, in fact, wrap up, though, I know that you wanted to share some thoughts, though, about what I said on Monday, revolving for the second year in a row, though, Nick, Little League Baseball having to make a statement about gambling on the Little League World Series for the second year in a row.
Well, hold that thought for a second. And an exclusive from The Athletic that the NFL's off-season edition of Hard Knocks is returning.
And who did they pick?
I don't know if I can read the story. But...
I have a subscription. I might be able to go check it out.
Oh, I got it. It's open. On Wednesday, the league will. So it says today they're going to announce it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just quickly reading the story. The last team featured was in 2024. It was the New York Giants. So I'm assuming it's not going to be New York, since if the last one was New York.
Weren't the Jets also featured when they got Rodgers a couple years ago?
That was the regular version. Because now they have that stupid secondary version for the offseason that they're bringing back.
Gotcha.
That shows you how much the NFL is unstarved for for content. But yes, I do want to talk about it. You brought it up on Cranium, the whole situation. What was the name of the company again? Because I can't remember.
Bet Online.
Okay. And I made a comment to you about the whole Bet Online situation. That if you didn't catch Callan's show on Tuesday early, they're allowing you to bet on Little League games. Well, it's not Little League. It's a Little League World Series, right? So I don't understand this. This reminds me of underage stuff with kids. You're betting on people who are not even legal to drive, legal to drink, legal to do anything in that regard. This just sounds like a company that's trying to forget the degenerate gamblers who are trying to make it. What about the company themselves?
Right.
They're trying to take advantage of a situation with small kids to make a buck. It's unbelievable to me what people will do, whether it's breaking the law, like we've talked about before today, or using your power to do what you want, Jed York, or disrespecting the fans and Deshaun Watson. We'll do anything to make a buck, meaning the athletes or the CEOs or the general managers in charge of teams. This is just a bad look in every way, shape, or form. You're going to put pressure on these kids to win games so that the dumbass, degenerate gamblers can win a buck? Really?
Yeah, I said my piece on Monday. I mean, I'm floored for the second year in a row, Nick, that Little League had to make a statement when the tournament began about betting on this tournament.
The question I have is, did they have to make the statement again? Well, actually, I'm about to answer my own question. Because of Bet Online.
Yes.
So I was going to say,
in a row.
So that the only reason they make that statement is because someone was caught. Well, I shouldn't say caught. They did it because it's up, right? So, oh, I think Christy says it well. Feels like exploitation.
Bingo.
Now, I don't know if I would have gone as far as your other comment where you said you thought it was being compared to
child pornography.
Because that's just vile, like indecent and vile. Now, I'm not saying kids should be bet on. Let me be very clear.
Yeah, 1,000%.
But I would say that one is that's just physical indecency, child pornography. This, you're putting pressure on kids to perform. You're looking for an event that is basically Yes.
Breaking news, Nick, from The Athletic.
What?
The NFL will no longer hold the Pro Bowl.
What?
Wait,
what?
The NFL is no longer hosting the Pro Bowl per a report put out right now by The Athletic.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So here's what we have. Here's what we know right now before we sign off for the day. Per Jonathan Jones of The Athletic, within the last roughly half an hour, the Pro Bowl the Athletic has learned via Jonathan Jones that the Pro Bowl is in fact being eliminated.
Woo!
On Wednesday, league executives presented to team owners the future of the Pro Bowl, which will no longer have a standalone game, be it tackle or flag football, or even the Pro Bowl games. After surveying the players over the years, the NFL will now make the Pro Bowl effectively a individual performance award and honor, and that is it.
Really? That's what they're doing.
88 players will receive the Pro Bowl honor with no alternates, correlating a key aspect of the All-Star event that had gotten out of whack in recent seasons.
That is unbelievable. I mean, I'm happy about it. The game is stupid, in my opinion. There's nothing to gain from it, right? I mean,
so going in further here, Nick, in place of the Pro Bowl games, Pro Bowlers will be invited out to Los Angeles for an in-person celebration in February leading up to the Super Bowl, I would assume. The process of selecting Pro Bowlers will remain the same as ballots cast by fans and coaches are weighted equally to determine the selection of the 88 players on offense, defense, and special teams across both the American and National Football Conferences. For many years, league executives have informally surveyed players about how to fix the Pro Bowl. Earlier this summer, NFL Executive VP of Football Operations Troy Vincent Sr. was on a call with more than a dozen star players, including Jalen Hurts, Jalen Ramsey, George Kittle, Deion Dawkins, and others. And they all made clear they wanted to properly honor and celebrate Pro Bowlers, including those who make the Super Bowl, after years of feeling the honor had become something less than what it should be.
I mean, I'm happy about this. That game has been a joke for years. Years.
You think it's been a joke ever since, Nick, that they made the game the same week of the Super Bowl and it was no longer being held in Honolulu?
Well, everyone wanted a free trip to Hawaii. That's why they would be happy to be voted in, because then it'll.
You know what? I only remember the Pro Bowl because Ed Hockley refereed it one year and he threw a penalty flag and he says, "Yes, there's flags and penalties in the Pro Bowl too."
Well, yeah, duh. I mean,
I thought that was hysterical.
I mean, it's great. I mean, but you know what? It was time for the Pro Bowl to go. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It was time, and now you should put that in the Gurus chat when they have to talk about that on Friday. I mean, my God, man. But yeah, that's a way to end a show. Oh my God. We're probably gonna have to do a bonus hour, probably on Kanter and Clouds. We didn't get to it today because there's a lot going on with that situation right now currently that we're gonna have to look at. But next show, September 2nd. Wow. Holy September already. We're going to be a little under 2 weeks away from the NFL season getting underway. We'll react to all the media stuff coming up with that and all the business stuff with that. What now?
Nick, there is a story that broke last night, but involves another issue of a player trying to get back to college football out of the NFL or vice versa, per the Miami Herald.
Okay.
Cam Vaughn of the Miami Hurricanes has reportedly filed a lawsuit against the Hurricanes and the NCAA in an attempt to enter the transfer portal little more than a week after the Hurricanes announced his dismissal from the program.
What?
Vaughn's representative Blake Searcy said via a statement to On3 on Tuesday that Miami dismissed Cam and canceled his scholarship with no written explanation, no rule violation identified, and no hearing after promises of a multi-year scholarship and, of course, revenue sharing and NIL compensation. Mario Cristobal announced Vaughn's dismissal last week on August 17th, but did not specify a reason for his dismissal. Per a source, Vaughn was a malcontent and was not happy about his spot on the team's depth chart.
Really?
Make it stop.
So you're just bitter, is what it sounds like.
Make it stop.
I don't know what to tell you at this point,
Please
man.
make it stop.
Enough with all the nonsense of NIL. I've had it. It's just Can we just like play a normal game without NIL regulations, please? Please
Oh,
and thank you.
no.
Why the hell would we do that?
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess that'll do it for the show. You got an extra 10 minutes out of us today. Thank you to Jimmy.
It's like going to the gas station and pumping like the extra couple of cents out of the tank.
Right, exactly. That number's not fully correct up there for the amount of people watching. There is over 370 people watching us right now. So thank you to.
Looks like one of the Twitter accounts took a hit for some reason.
It's been resetting on and off throughout the whole show.
Damn you, goalposts.
But it's thank you to the 370 plus people. I can tell because I'm looking at the numbers on the outside. So
also real quick, I know this is a sports podcast, but deepest wishes to Dolly Parton and Tim Curry's family. I mean, what a rugged couple days for the entertainment world, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there real quick.
No, you're totally right. Dolly, I think, was 80 years old.
They both were 80.
Oh man. I used to working 9 to 5.
I think about that. I also think about when she came to the Thanksgiving Day game for the Cowboys. A couple years ago with the cheerleaders, like only Dolly Parton, right? Tim Curry being in the outfit for a long time. Three Musketeers with Tim Curry.
I mean, by the way, she had courage to show up in an outfit like the cheerleaders too. No insult.
She wasn't afraid of it either. Yeah, was not afraid to do it either. And what she did for her philanthropy, amazing.
Dolly World.
Yes.
Also. People forget about Dolly World, but I never went to Dolly World. Where is Dolly World? I don't even know where that is.
Tennessee.
Oh, just like I'm thinking of the other thing. But yes, everything seems to be in Tennessee, all these parks. Dolly was fearless. Yes. But yes, wishes out to both those families as we slowly make it to the end of the year. It's sad watching that list on the New Year's drop.
It hurts so bad, seeing
every
that.
year.
Every year.
It's almost like a bad time capsule when you get to the end of the year, when you see all the big names that have passed away. But yeah, that'll do it for the show. Next show, September 2nd. First show is September, which means we have about 2 months and 2 weeks before the best ofs come up. It's unbelievable, right? I mean,
yep.
And I will tell you right now, we are going to be busy. You and I, you're probably going to get a 4-hour best of probably out of this show with the amount of interviews.
24 hours.
Yeah, no.
12 hours.
No. Even though we're trying to work on a 24-hour stream at some point. But that'll do it. September 2nd, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. You'll catch the two of us back at it again with more shenanigans across the world of sports media and business. Make sure you follow the show on social media at PressRowETB, across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and maybe someday when we get around to TikTok, at PressRowETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Network, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. A lot of stuff coming out of there. A lot of scheduling stuff coming out of there.
Including the return of FP5 this evening with Zan Bando and James Myers. About time.
I forgot to mention that too. So coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes from now, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, the premiere of Forever Power 5 Season 3, Episode 1 comes your way as they get you ready for Week 0 of the college football season. They will get you ready for TCU, North Carolina, the game in Dublin, best bets as well. They will get you ready for that, and they'll go over kind of the new format for FP5 as the Big Ten meets the Pac-12.
Now, who would have thought we'd be saying that? Because James is a SDSU fan, and they're now in the
new Pac-12.
Do me one more favor, if you could just hit that last thing on the bottom.
Oh, yeah, let me go and actually go and re-pull up my document here because I jumped
I mean,
out
I
of
could
it.
do it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. I jumped out of it early.
Where is the read? Did you get rid of it?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's a Forever Power 5 read. Oh, this is good. That's not going to help. Let me see if I can quickly go into my doc. This is the blessing of live show. I think I got it. Looking at your weekend radar. Hey, that's a destination in 4 states. If you get the show reference, you do. Look at your weekend radar. There's a massive storm system brewing, and it's bringing a heavy downfall of sharp picks and cold hard spreads. Forget the boring, old school pregame coverage. This isn't your granddaddy's regular NFL talk show. You need the ultimate weekend outlook before you lay down a single dollar, and that means tuning into the football forecast on the Empty the Bench network. Lead meteorologist and football insider Johnny Montalbano and the entire ETB football crew break down every matchup on the board, from high-pressure defense to low-temperature upset alerts. They're delivering a 100% chance of high-value picks against the spread. Don't get caught in the rain on Sunday. Catch the football forecast every Friday during the NFL season at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Empty the Bench network. Get your forecast, track the lines, and weather the storm all weekend long, premiering September 11th. Only on the Empty the Bench network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB network, to find out more.
Exactly.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don LaGreca, by the way.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for the show. Like I said, tune in about an hour and 15 minutes. Season 3, Episode 1, premiere of Forever Power 5. Sam Bando, James Myers, Big Ten, Pac-12. They clash together to bring you everything that's going on in the world of college football, and they will be on after us now every Wednesday. So we will be the lead-in to Forever Power 5. Also, don't miss one of the final 2 episodes of Tough Enough, which airs tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. We pushed that back to get Forever Power 5. So you still got a double feature after us, Forever Power 5 and Tough Enough, 6:30 Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern. Follow me. So don't go anywhere. There's plenty of programming coming on after us. And until then, we will see you next week for another edition of Press Row. He's Callan McClurg. I'm Nick Morgasen. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next week.